the maximum level of preparedness for any hazards that may affect our region. And in 2019, we piloted the conduct of this provincial DRRM caravans in various provinces of the Cordillera. And this activity actually provided a platform for the regional DRRM Council and Provincial DRRM Council to interface and discuss important matters pertaining to the implementation of various DRRM-related activities in our region. So, sa conduct ng caravan ko na ito last year, if you remember right, nag-visit po kami isa-isa per province. And during our visit, dala-dala din po namin yung mga members ng ating Regional DRRM Council to meet with the members of the Provincial DRRM Council para mag-discuss natin yung mga issues natin and concerns regarding sa DRRM implementation in our respective provinces and regions. And with the positive feedback that we gathered from our stakeholders in relation to the conduct of this activity, the OCT CAR implemented the same scheme for this year. So, ang components ng ating provincial DRRM caravan or resilience caravan ay actually tatlong components po siya. First, when we visit provinces, we conduct joint NDRRMC and LDRRMC meetings. We also conduct simultaneously the review of local DRRM plans, as well as report development workshops and conduct of local DRRM office assessment. So for 2019, we were able to visit all the provinces of the Cordillera. And in 2020, we again launched this project. We started with the province of Benguet in February 2020. Unfortunately, due to the challenges brought by COVID-19 pandemic, we have to cancel and postpone our provincial caravan visits to our provinces. Of course, because we have to observe yung mga protocols na pinapa-implement po sa atin ng ating interagency task force at the national and regional level. However, hindi po tayo dapat tumigil sa ating mga activities for DRRM. Thus, as we embrace the new and better normal, the Office of Civil Defense prepared an online survey form and situational analysis that were given to our local DRRM officers in the Cordillera to guide us in planning the succeeding conduct of our resilience caravans via online platform. So if you remember po, 2 weeks ago, nagbigay po kami ng online survey to our local DRRM councils. And based on that survey, ito po yung plan natin, ito na po yung plan natin to conduct our caravan via online. And most of our topics for discussion for our caravan this morning ay based po sa results ng ating online survey and situational analysis to our local DRRM officers. So again, thank you very much to our local DRRM officers for giving us your time to answer that survey because it really helped us in our planning for the conduct of this activity. Okay, so with that, we are also fortunate and lucky enough to have with us the Executive Director of the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council and the Administrator of the Office of Civil Defense to give us an opening message.
To our partners and stakeholders in disaster risk reduction and management, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to this online resilience caravan. As we face the challenges brought by the COVID-19 pandemic, we remain threatened by the usual hazards that are part and parcel of our geographic location in the Typhoon Belt and the Pacific Ring of Fire. We have witnessed how the Habagat brought torrential rains that caused floods in the different areas in the country this month alone, and the 6.6 magnitude earthquake in Masbate left considerable damages. The COVID-19 pandemic, for its part, had caused deaths and economic disruption in a global scale. It has revealed vulnerabilities of populations, weaknesses in the healthcare systems, and various gaps in governance. Unfortunately, the dangers posed by this deadly virus can be aggravated by the occurrence of natural hazards. Therefore, it is essential that efforts to further educate our people on all these threats must continue. Let me commend the Office of Civil Defense Cordillera for organizing this virtual resilience caravan and continuing efforts to ensure that our countrymen here in the region would stay abreast of the goings on in our national DRRM effort, our systems, and the ways and means for them to remain prepared and safe against all threats of natural hazards. Let me also thank the regional government agencies for their continuous cooperation with OCD, as well as the local chief executives and the respective local DRRM officers for setting a good example in the management of this health crisis in their localities. The low number of COVID-19 cases in the region is a concrete evidence of your dedication and commitment to ensure the safety of the Cordilleras. Achieving resilience in these times of the new normal may not be easy, but with our steadfast and combined efforts, capitalizing on multi-stakeholder partnership and cooperation, we will be able to do the things we used to do much better. With that, I wish you a meaningful and successful event with the hope that all of the objectives will be achieved for a safer, adaptive, and disaster-resilient Cordilleras. Agyamanak ken naimbag aldaw kada tayo amen.
Okay, thank you very much to the Executive Director of our National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, and of course, the Administrator of Office of Civil Defense. Indeed, a very inspiring message from our leaders, from our leadership at the national level. So again, we are continuously working from the national level down to the local level as we continue to face the challenges and consequences brought by this COVID-19 pandemic, and of course, the various hazards that continue to affect our region, including hydrometeorological hazards and other geologic hazards that we are experiencing. But despite that, we continue to work and we continue to harmonize our efforts for us to better serve our constituents in the Cordillera Administrative Region. So again, thank you very much to our National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council. So also joining us this afternoon is the chairperson of the Cordillera Regional Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council and the regional director of the Office of Civil Defense Cordillera. We have, please welcome Director Albert A. Mogol.
Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. To our NDRRMC Executive Director and Civil Defense Administrator, Yusek Ricardo D. Halat, presented by Civil Defense Deputy Administrator of Operations, Asek Casiano C. Monilla, Director Texon John S. Lim, Director of the Policy Development and Planning Service, Regional Directors and DRRM focal persons of the Cordillera RDRRMC, member agencies, chairpersons of the provincial and municipal DRRM councils from the provinces of Apayao, Benguet, Ifugao, Kalinga. DRRM focal persons of various agencies joining us today. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. In 2019, the Cordillera RDRRMC, through the Office of the Civil Defense Cordillera, led the conduct of provincial DRRM caravans. The said activity provided a platform for the regional DRRMC and the provincial DRRMC to interface and discuss important matters pertaining to the implementation of various DRRM-related programs and activities. We officially launched this project in the province of Benguet last February 2020, but it was cut short by the challenges brought about by COVID-19 pandemic. As we embrace the new and better normal, the Office of Civil Defense (CAR) prepared an online survey form and situational analysis to all local disaster risk reduction and management officers in the Cordillera to guide us in the planning for the succeeding conduct of resilience caravans via online platforms. The results of that survey was overwhelming, and the data gathered were used to plan for the conduct of this online or the Cordillera Virtual Resilience Caravan. This activity serves as a perfect avenue for the regional DRRMC and the provincial DRRM councils to interface and discuss important matters pertaining to the implementation of various DRRM-related programs and activities to ensure our maximum preparedness with the onset of typhoon season amidst the continuing challenge of COVID-19. We have invited high-caliber speakers and resource persons to provide us updates on the current status of DRRM in the Philippines and of and within the region. Our session is divided into two segments. First, we will hear updates from our national counterpart on the important DRRM update, including the proposed creation of the Department of Disaster Resilience. And the second are the updates from the regional DRRM activities. In addition to this, we also have to recognize the reality that our fight against COVID-19 is far from over. The need to sustain our gains from ECQ, GCQ to NGCQ periods is a collective effort of every citizen who abides by our biosafety protocols in embracing the new normal. That is why our theme for the Virtual Resilience Caravan in the Cordillera. The Cordilleras have been known for its values and socio-cultural heritage and community practices. Naturally endowed from the historical roots and ancestry, I think this is what the people of the Cordillera accept. Are set apart why we came up with the best practices and challenges by these trying times. This provides for the impetus for the kind of leadership that leaders may exemplify in the protection of lives and properties, especially during crisis. We conduct this activity because we recognize the importance of reaching out to our local counterparts, even in the virtual forum, to ensure that we are working harmoniously. To be informed is only one way of being prepared. When our communities prepare for their safety, we, as disaster managers, prepare to give assistance in case our communities are overwhelmed by these disasters. A common thread that we have to work on further is the importance of convergence. Convergence of all the stakeholders. The national, regional, local, as well as non-government partners in the field of disasters risk reduction. With this, we hope that in the discussions and the knowledge we share in this meeting will be useful in our respective fields of assignment and be carried out into action. Because a lesson learned is indeed learned when it is put into action. Finally, from the entire team of OCD Cordillera, we would like to express our gratitude to our provincial DRRM chairpersons for joining us today and for saying yes to our invitation and for tirelessly sharing their knowledge and experience on the other. Equally important, we give our thanks to our Civil Defense Administrator, Yusek Ricardo Hala, for all the support he has extended the OCD Cordillera. My appreciation also goes to our participants for taking out this busy schedule to attend this very important activity. The local DRRM officers from the province of Apayao, Benguet, Kalinga, and Ifugao. I hope that today's meeting will deepen our discussion and our understanding, strengthen our resolve, and promote greater collaboration towards a more resilient Cordillera. Once again, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat.
Okay, thank you very much to the chairperson of the Cordillera Regional Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, and of course, the Regional Director of OCD CAR, for also joining us in our activity. So again, this activity actually has been one of the primary projects of the Office of Civil Defense CAR to reach out to our local counterparts and communities in the provinces of the Cordillera. And despite the challenges that we have from COVID-19, we did not really stop, but rather we are continuously finding ways for us to meet and discuss with our local DRRM officers who are continuously working on the ground. And so to give us now an overview of our rules, simple house rules for this webinar, may I again call our planning officer from the Office of Civil Defense Corps, Divine Posikaw, to give us a short background of our webinar house rules.
Good afternoon to all of us. Please allow me to state our webinar house rule for this afternoon. Okay, so we have 5 basic rules to follow. First is that make sure that your microphone and your webcam are properly working. Second, audio of all participants will be muted except for the facilitator and presenter. The third house rule is to express a manifestation such as questions. If you want to share something, send a message through the chat box, and after being recognized, unmute your audio. Always state the name before commenting. Also state the name of the person or agency to whom you are addressing your comments. And last, use the chat box to advance your questions or comments, particularly in manifesting or clarifying any issues or concerns. This is helpful when technical glitches or choppy communications occur during the session. Thank you, Sir First.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Divine. I hope we all agree to that simple house rules that we have. And in addition to that, we also encourage our participants who are joining us, if you are posting through your social media accounts, you may use the following hashtag that we have. So we have hashtag resilient Cordillera, hashtag for the Resilience Caravan 2020, and of course, hashtag Resilience PH. So yan po yung mga hashtag na pwede natin gamitin if we are to post using our social media. Of course, we also have our program of activity for this afternoon session. So our program is actually divided into two main sections. Number one is we will be hearing updates from the national level, and number two at the regional level. For the national level, we will be hearing updates from the Director of the Policy Development and Planning Service of OCD Central Office, Director Pexon John S. to discuss updates on the proposed bills for the creation of the Department of Disaster Resilience and updates on the formulation of guidelines for the accreditation and of our disaster volunteers or our ECVDs. At the regional level, we will give you updates on COVID-19 response and contact tracing in the region. We will also give updates on the utilization of our Bayanihan grants and local DRRM funds with the Bureau of Local Government Finance. from the National Economic and Development Authority, we will also give updates on the Cordillera Recovery and Resiliency Plan for COVID-19. And of course, from our Department of the Interior and Local Government, we will be giving updates on our current preparedness measures for rainy season amidst the continuing challenge of COVID-19 pandemic. So we will be discussing these topics. We have until around 4:15 to 4:30 p.m. For us to discuss our agenda for this afternoon. Okay, so without further ado, we will now proceed to our first session on the national DRRM updates. And allow me to first introduce our distinguished resource person to give us updates from the national DRRM level. So our resource person is currently the Director of the Policy Development and Planning Service of the Office of Civil Defense Central Office. And he has a wide range of experience in relation to disaster risk reduction, climate change adaptation, and resilience. Among his work experience in the past include being the city administrator of the city government of Tacloban, and he is also a convener of the Haiyan Disaster Governance Initiative, a senior consultant of the Climate Change Commission, a project management officer of the Office of the Cabinet Secretary, and of course, the current director of our planning service at the central office. So he finished his bachelor's degree in mathematics at the University of the Philippines, Diliman, a Juris Doctor degree at the Ateneo de Manila School of Law, and his master's degree in crisis and risk management at the Philippine Public Safety College, being recognized as one of the top 10 theses for 2019, and a certificate of recognition for for his research on enhancing disaster preparedness for response and recovery earthquakes and megacities initiative. And currently, he is also taking an executive course on Masters in National Security Administration at the National Defense College of the Philippines. So without further ado, we would like to welcome Director Texton Jan S. Lim. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us.
Hello, magandang hapon po to everyone. First and foremost, allow me to, of course, greet yung aking idol na kapatid, ang aking kuyang na si OCD CAR, Regional Director and Cordillera RDRRMC Chair, si Sir Idol Kuyang Albert Mogul. Magandang hapon, Kuyang. And of course, our Vice Chairperson of the Cordillera RDRRMC, DOST CAR, Regional Director Nancy A. Bantog of the Prevention, which is the Prevention and Mitigation Vice Chair, DILG CAR, Regional Director Marlo Iringan, the Vice Chair for Preparedness, DSWD, Field Office CAR, Regional Director Leo Quintilla, Vice Chair of Response, and of course our NEDA CAR, Regional Director Milagros Rimando for the Rehab and Recovery. To all of our regional offices, our local DRMOs, LGU officers, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. So allow me to quickly share, dadalian ko na lang po yung aking presentation. Share screen ako dito, sandali po. So, okay. So allow me to share with you the updates on the disaster resilient bills in the 18th Congress. I say disaster resilience bills that later on I will discuss. What we're seeing now is two different versions from the two different houses of Congress. So Yung scope po natin, bibigyan ko lang po yung updates. Matagal-tagal na naman ang usapan to, so para hindi na humaba, ay dito na lang po ako sa update natin sa Senate at sa House. And I was mentioning earlier, no, the versions in both houses are currently, or the directions in both houses are currently not the same. So sa Senate, no, mas mabilis. Ito, we have 11 bills filed. So we have 11 senators filing bills relative to Department of Disaster Resilience, a Disaster Resilience Authority, and the like. No? And currently, these bills are pending in the Senate Committee on National Defense and Security, Peace, Unification, and Reconciliation, led by none other than our beloved Senator Ping Lacson. Actually, yung last committee hearing was held last November 11, 2019. And from there, due to the pandemic, medyo na-hold po talaga ito. No? Maganda po yung nangyari nung huling November na yan. Actually, I think you can find it on YouTube. That hearing in the Senate where all the agencies were invited to, all primary agencies involved in the NDRRMC were invited. Tapos, they also invited the members from the civil society, whether yung mga private sector partners po natin at yung mga ating CSO partners. So, medyo maganda po yung pati po sila Maharlagmay ay inimbita rin po. So, maganda po yung naging consultation ng ating House, Senate Committee na yon. So supposedly, we were already discussing, and direction po nila is the amendment of RA 10121. This is based on the UNDP parang quote-unquote sunset review. No? Kaya ako po sinasabi na quote-unquote sunset review kasi po dapat na magsa-sunset review yung Congress. Pero hindi na nila tinuloy yun at si UNDP po ang nagsimula ng isang parang sunset review at they're following that direction that we should just merely amend RA 10121. And what they are looking at, ang pinaka-kinalalabasan po ng ating nung sunset review na po na yon, is that we should establish a Disaster Resilience Authority. Ang OCD po, ang Office of Civil Defense, is lacking in its capacity, no? Whether in terms of manpower or in terms of in terms of its capacities, no? Napakaliit po at napakalaki ang alam naman po natin, kilala natin ng RA 10121 at at the current size and capacity of the OCD, we are unable to really completely perform all of its functions, all of the functions mandated by RA 12121. As well as those under the NDRRM plan. No? So, sabi po nila ay sige, ituloy po natin, igawin nating authority ang OCD. Ngayon po, ano pong sinasabi, bakit authority? Gusto ko lang po explain later on kasi naririnig po natin, kagaya ng sabi ni Presidente, ay gusto yan ng department. Ngayon, ano yung kinaibahan po niyan? Mamaya pag-uusapan ho natin yan. Sige po. Now, so ito po, I'll just quickly flash the senators or the senators who had the bills filed. No, so you have Senator Pangilinan, Senator Poe, Senator Pacquiao, Senator Bongo, Senator Tolentino, Senator Soto, Senator Cayetano, Senator Angara, Senator Gatchalian, Senator Marcos, and Senator Zubiri. In most of this po, kalahati po nito ay yung department na pinupush. Yung iba naman po is some kind of amendment of RA 10121 creating authority nga po. No? So again, later I will discuss more as I discuss yung sa version ng House kung ano yung kinaibahan po ng authority at ng department. So allow me to move into the updates in the House of Representatives. Sa House po, medyo marami-rami po ang mga bills na final po sa House. We have 35 bills filed. after a long journey, no, sa House, no, matagal na ito pinag-uusapan po kasi sa House. So since 2016 pa, sinimulan na nila ang usapin tungkol dito sa Department of Disaster Resilience or Disaster Resilience Authority. In fact nga po, sa background po niya, ay dati pinag-uusapan pa kung tatawaging Civil Defense Authority. Yun po. At napagkasunduan na lang po na tawagin talaga siyang disaster resilience. No? So, after years and years, no, the House the Committee on Disaster Management came out with House Bill. The Committee on Disaster Management, together with the Committee on Government Reorganization, came up with House Bill number 5989, the substitute bill that now incorporates the 35 House bills, which was adopted on 25 January 2020. So, the sponsors, primary sponsors po niya, marami po actually sponsors yan, pero ang kanyang primary sponsors is none other than the Committee on Government Reorganization, Committee Chair, Representative Marino, and the Committee on Disaster Management Chairman Congressman Torres Gomez, Lucy Torres Gomez, Congressman Salceda, and Congressman Ungab. Chairman right now, kung asan po siya sa House, it's currently under the second reading period of interpellations. Nagsimula ito before the lockdown, bago po pumotok itong ating COVID-19 pandemic, no, dito sa ating bansa. Pero ngayon, so the last interpellation niya is noong February 5, 2020. And actually, ngayon po ang scheduled interpellation niya. No? Dapat nung una noong August 18, pero na-postpone po ito. Dahil napakahaba po yung session ng araw na yun. So, na-schedule po siya. So, mamaya 3 o'clock pag-uusapan na po. Ngayon, ang direction po nung House Bill nito, no? Itong House Bill 5989, is the DDR talaga, the Department of Disaster Resilience, where the law aims to replace RA 10121. How does it replace RA 10121? Apart from creating the Department of Disaster Resilience, it will now abolish the existence of the council. So wala na po tayong council dito, no? And it will kind of sort of trickle down pati po sa ating mga regions and locals na wala na pong regions, wala na pong council. Purong lahat may office na lang po, no? And then basically, since wala na po tayong council, what we will have is this concept of joint operational supervision. So certain agencies, certain bureaus of certain agencies, like for example sa DILG, yung Bureau of Fire, sa DOST, yung Pag-asa, FIVOX, sa DNR, yung MGB, these bureaus will now fall under the joint operational supervision of the Department of Disaster Resilience and their mother organization. Ngayon, yung 4 thematic pillars ay malilipat na, ay mababago. Instead of yung ating nakikita sa RA 10121 na pinag-usapan yung 4 na thematic pillars of prevention, mitigation, preparedness, response, and rehabilitation and recovery, ay magiging transform siya into the 3 KRAs, which is disaster risk reduction, preparedness and response, and building back better or resilient recovery. So, actually maganda rin yung 3 KRAs yan. No? Parang tinitignan na lang is outcome-based instead of the 4 thematic pillars. Given that ang sa atin, sa pag-aaral po natin ng ating, kahit nung ating DRRM framework, ay minsan hindi ho nakaka-capture yung ano po, yung ilang importanteng overlaps, no? Like preparedness and response. Alam naman natin po yan, nakasama talaga dapat sa response yung preparedness for response. Yun po. Tapos yung ibang aspect naman po, tulad ng sa mga institutional capacity building, ay nilalagay na directly under DRRR at tinatanggal siya dun sa concept ng preparedness. Alam din po natin yan na medyo malawak po ang usaping preparedness. Pero ang minimaintain po natin dito at pinalalakas, makikita po talaga natin na pinapalakas talaga ang ating rehabilitation and recovery. Na isang napaka-importante, no? Na as you know, I think one of our exemplars, of course, is Cordillera. We have noticed over this past few years, at least the past 2 years, Cordillera is very, very strong in rehabilitation and recovery. And I would like to applaud, of course, our RDRRMC chair, and as well as the members of the RDRRMC, particularly NEDA of our Region CAR, for really showing leadership, no, in terms of rehabilitation recovery. Alam naman po natin, sorry, as a former director of rehab and recovery, the Rehabilitation and Recovery Management Service, and a survivor myself of Haiyan or Yolanda, ay malapit po sa puso ko ang rehabilitation and recovery. Dahil dito po is importante na we're rebuilding lives and making them more resilient, na para hindi na ho paulit-ulit na pabagsak sila ng pagbagsak in terms of growth. Mahirap po yung parating akyat baba, no? Nagiging resilient nga yung tao, problema hindi nagde-develop. Pangit naman po yun. Kaya ito po, pinag-uusapan rin po natin to na itong kahit sisingit ko lang yan sa rehab and recovery, kahit po dito ngayon sa ating pag-recover from this COVID-19 crisis, I see also, of course, nakita ko na rin yung rehabilitation plan and recovery plan ng CAR na napakaganda. I think pati yung national government ay inaunahan nyo na po. Actually, gusto kayong palakpakan doon at talagang medyo malawak po at maganda po ang nadidesign nyo. And these kinds of things, I think, no, I guess this is why your RDRRMC is wanted to discuss these matters, is because it is important for us to ensure now that to protect our economic recovery and our economic and social recovery from COVID-19 is that we are able to strengthen our resilience as a whole. Otherwise, our economic recovery will always be hit, no, or will always be subject to the being affected by other disasters. So, moving forward, so ito po, quick list na lang to, hindi ko na, medyo mahaba po yung listahan. Pero ito po yung mga listahan ng mga nag-submit po ng mga kanila-kanilang mga bills, no, relative to the Department of Disaster Resilience. So, let me quickly, medyo mas maganda yung usapin na ngayon sa House kasi meron na talaga na sa period of interpolation na po sila. So, binanggit ko kanina na yung current bill is already now includes a provision relative to the joint operational supervision. This is what we're calling as the Sjlt amendment. Kasi ang usapin dati, ang pinakaunang version ng DDR bill ay yung kay Joey Salceda. And itong version na to, muntik na to umabot sa floor. Actually, nasa floor na dapat. Medyo na overturn lang siya sa rules. At ang una kasi, yung gusto ni ating Congressman Joey Salceda, who is a very, very seasoned disaster manager, having been the former governor of Albay and have been with disaster management close to his heart. Nung una, gusto niya talagang i-absorb lahat ng mga agencies, mga ibang bureau. So yung sa version nila nung unang lumabas, itong mga DOST Pag-asa, ang ating mga DOST FIVOX, yung DNRMGB, yung DOHMB, itong DILG BFP, ay lahat ay mapapaisalalim na or kakainin na siya or ma-merge na siya into that Department of Disaster Resilience. Kasi iniisip niya, pag department po siya talaga, again, as opposed to later an authority, where there is now, where we will be eliminating the council, ang idea po is that department, kasi di ba, pag department, dapat kaya niyang i-handle ng more or less na siya na yung kaya i-handle yung mga mandato niya. No? So sabi niya, sige, lagyan natin ng boots on the ground, bigyan natin siya ng science, yung ability, no? Para wala siyang ibang mapagsisisihan. So, in lieu of that, since itong version na nasa floor ngayon ay hindi na niya ma-absorb yung DOST, DNR, at lahat-lahat, no? At may iwang ma-absorb na lang, which I understand is to the interest or kagustuhan din po nila is to absorb only the DSWD, DRR, DRRMG, no? Hindi lang yung Dream B, yung group, no? So kasi I think that's I think my friends here, our friends here from DSWD would know, is the Dream B, the members of the parts of the Dream B, and yung sa logistics. So those two form the Dream G or the Dream Group. Yun na lang po ang maililipat dun sa DDR. Noong una rin may usapin na isasama rin yung Climate Change Commission, pero due to the amendments made by Congressman Loren Legarda, ay natanggal na yun. So ang current natin is ang current version ng DDR sa House is that yung Dream G lang ng DSWD ang masasama. So with that absorption, sabi na lang nila, sabi ng DOST na let's take away that joint operational supervision. Huwag na natin isama yan. And we can just leave it with a quote of interdepartmental relations and coordination. No? So pwede rin naman, no? Pwede rin naman po. At maganda po dito is kahit paano ay na-identify kung ano ang magiging role ng mga ahensya na ito. Alam naman po natin, hindi naman natin sabi na hindi nila ginagawa ang kanilang trabaho. Ginagawa naman po nila ngayon. Pero this is something that we want to also show, because showing the mandate of the particular organization or the particular agency or bureau will now allow them to get budget approvals for institutional capacity building supposedly from the DBM. Diba? Alam po natin yan, tayong mga nandito sa bureaucracy, minsan po, pag wala ho sa mandato natin, ay napakahirap po pagsasabihin natin na, may role kami dito sa DRM, sa National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Plan. Meron ho kaming obligasyon doon, pero hindi ho namin kayang gampanan kasi kulang kami ng tao. Pero minsan hindi pinapansin yung plano, di ba? Kailangan mandato ng batas. At kung sa mandato ng batas, mas may chance na bibigyan tayo ng finances para talagang magampanan po ito. So yun yung mga targets po talaga. No? Okay, and then next. So on the Department of Finance naman, despite nandiyan na tayo sa floor, sila naman, nagpo-focus naman sila. No? Gusto nilang, kinokomentan po nila yung mga tax provision. At they're dissenting on the prevention of further tax credits, private sectors, as there are already existing policies in the Tax Code and Customs Modernization Tariff Act. No? Sa atin kasi sinasabi ho natin na kung hindi man magbibigay ng tax exemption, ay bigyan sila ng tax credit. Lalo na sa mga donated goods or provide, services provided. No? They also dissent on the provision allowing the DDR to provide programs for tax relief and subsidies to businesses since it is a mandate solely within the purview of the DOF. Sinasabi nila, power nila yan, hindi na sa DDR. Pero nakikita ko nga natin, di ba? Alam naman po natin. We all know that the business of or the practice of disaster resilience or disaster risk reduction and management cannot really be placed in one agency alone. No? I think to say that to have an agency or a department that can actually perform all of the functions relative to disaster risk reduction and management would be to say to create a mini government in itself. Hindi ko talaga kakayan. So, okay. So, ito po, yung sa tax exemptions, their recommendation is that the grant of tax exemptions by the BR is a form of remedial measure during the state of calamity to be reviewed since all forms of tax exemptions should pass with the approval of Congress. So, ito nga po, yung matagal na natin pinaproblema about tax exemptions. Kasama na rin po yung mga importation to ng mga, minsan may mga grants po tayo, may mga donations from abroad. At parating issue natin is may magbibigay na nga, itatax pa nga natin. Opo. So, yan ang isang bagay na nire-resolve pa rin po. At sana po matapos sa period of interpolation. Ngayon, there are some positions, no, about the retention of the council. No, OCD per se, no, even after, well, we did initially agree, sige, gawin na natin yung department, no, even with the council over the past, no, over these past few months, since the last discussion of the DDR on the committee level, we have come to realize na there may be really a need to maintain the council. Alam po natin yan na, again, I think like RDRRMC CAR ay napaka-effective at napakalakas ng council na yan. Sa national, sa totoo lang ay minsan medyo mas kakaiba, pero maganda pa rin na may council kasi kailangan tulong-tulungan. So para mabigyan rin natin ng buhay, ang ating sinasabi na kailangan whole of society approach ang gagamitin natin in disaster risk reduction and management. Even now, I think in COVID-19, our weakness is our ability to be able to really harness the whole of society. Kahit na sinabi ho natin yan sa NAP na whole of society, ito isang bagay na since the pandemics are human-induced disasters and falls within the purview of crisis management, no? Or the concept of crisis management and not disaster risk management, ay medyo nawala po yung pagka-whole of society niya. For the long-term this crisis and disaster managers out there, I'm sure you understand that it follows a different framework, no? And it's under a different system. That's why you have the IATF EID, which is actually the child of EO 82 series of 2014, which prescribed the crisis management system of the Philippines, which seems to be a cut out of the entire disaster management system. So anyway, discuss po natin yung mamaya kung may magtatanong. So ang target po natin, we're still hoping na ma-retain po yung council. But this time, to be headed by the ES or the Cabinet Secretary, and then not anymore the Secretary of the DND, and then with the Secretary of the DDR to serve as the sole Vice Chair. So sole Vice Chair na lang siya. So may members na lang po, yung 3 KRAs or 4 thematic pillars. This is at least particularly on the national level. We understand like in we understand that in some areas kasi po ay talagang hindi po hindi equipped po yung mga agencies to handle the thematic pillars. So what we're looking at is having one sole vice chair na lang po, which can be the secretary of the DDR or the DRA. Now the clusters, whether it's based on the 4 thematic pillars and 3 KRAs, are to be headed now already by the undersecretaries of the DDR or DRA. Yung DRA ulit, ito po yung Disaster Resilience Authority. Saka naisip namin na mas mapapadali. I think maybe this is the right time for me to discuss what would be the difference between a DDR and the DRA. Sa DDR, kagaya ng pinag-usapan kanina, ay departmento na po siya. No? A department, a solo department like the DILG, the DOST, no? Na department po siya. Talaga meron siya specific function, no? May specific mandate siya na within their particular subject matter. Yung DRA will now be like the NEDA na authority where you have a board. Yun yung kinaibahan dito. Pag yung authority siya, automatic may board ka. At tulad po ng NEDA, I think yung mga kasama natin sa NEDA would definitely know na sa NEDA, yung NEDA board is actually like a mini cabinet then, which can be the existing council na medyo i-tweak lang natin na same pa rin na yung Director General mo, which is like the NEDA Secretary or the NEDA Director General, is now that Vice Chair. So parang we're following we are actually proposing, or we would actually based on the recommendations also of our development and NGO, private sector, and CSO partners is to already maintain, to go into and become an authority, where they are also, of course, members of the board, thus giving life to the whole of society. Okay. So again, also, instead of repealing RA 10121, we are hoping, no, that the DDR bill will merely serve as an amendment to RA 10121 and not repeal it in its entirety. So sinasabi namin na ganoon na lang po sana. Kung gusto talaga nila gawing Department of Disaster Resilience, basta may council, medyo pareho na rin yung para sa DRA. Ano? I know it's different technically for those who are long-time bureaucrats and who understands the limitations and what can and cannot be done by between a department and an authority. Makikita nila yun. Pero generally, sige na, hayaan mo na. Kung gusto nila tawagin Department of Disaster Resilience, fine. But sana it's gonna be a strengthening. No? A strengthening of RA 10121 instead of totally revamping our entire system. Dahil gumagana naman siya. No? Pagbigyan na rin po natin, RA 10121 was only passed in 2010. So magte-10 years pa lang po yung batas na ito after matagal na pinaglabanan. Now, other things that we are hoping that will be discussed during the period of interpellation is, of course, there is restoration of the Ndrm Fund, or which now will be called the National Disaster Resilience Fund, based on the move of the House Committee on Appropriations. Ito actually medyo nabulaga kami dito at under question mark to. No? Pero ibabalik na po. Parang ginawa nila yung mga local DRRM funds maintain, pero yung national tinanggalan. At ilagay na lang daw sa GAA. Medyo mahirap yun. Sana, so pinipilit pa rin, I think based on the agreements made during the special meeting conducted by the Committee on Government Reorganization, ay ibabalik na po yung yung Ndrm Fund. But and hopefully, ang target po natin is that we can now allow, or the law would specifically allow, that the Ndrm Fund be allowed to be downloaded to local governments, particularly yung ating mga mas mahihirap na local governments, para mabigyan sila ng prevention and mitigation fund. Ayun ang nakikita ho natin na pinaka-isang weakness po natin sa prevention and mitigation. Alam naman natin na dapat doon tayo mag-invest, no? Pero apparently mas malaki ang investments natin pa rin hanggang ngayon sa responses as opposed to sa prevention or mitigation or sa building back better, no? Kaya nangyari, instead na nakakatipid tayo ng 6 na piso dahil nag-invest tayo sa prevention and mitigation or nilagay po natin sa building back better, napapagastos po tayo ng 7 pesos instead of that 1 pesos into the response and recovery. Okay. Okay, here we go. So yung operational budget ng DDR, dati po kasi nilagay nila 1 billion lang. Pinush na natin na mag 3 billion po siya. Tapos, so basically, ito po yung summary ng ating hiningi at napag-agrihan dun sa House Committee on Government Reorganization Committee meeting noong August 12. And we do hope that it will reflect within these next few weeks. Particularly that of the retention of the council, as well as of course, the NDRRM fund. As well as, of course, tanggalin na rin po yung joint operational supervision. Medyo talaga nakakaiba po yun. With that, thank you very much. And before I move on to the updates on the ACDB, I'd like to open the the session for any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Director Lin. So that is the first part of the presentation from the National DRRM Council updates. We focus on updates on the proposed bill for the creation of the Department of Disaster Resilience or Authority. So again, we encourage our participants to ask questions or clarifications for questions that we have our own resource person who is joining us in our session. So please do use our chat box to type your questions and clarifications, and we will read them to our resource person.
I'm sorry. Okay. Questions?
Okay. While waiting for questions from our participants, we also recognize other participants who are joining us in our session. We have DepEd DRRM school coordinators from different provinces. I think we have DepEd school DRRM coordinators from the provinces of Benguet, Apayao, Kalinga, and Ifugao who are also joining us in this session. So thank you very much, Department of Education, for joining us at the activity. And as a reminder, we will be providing 15 minutes before we end our session an online evaluation form where in all participants will be required to fill up. So we will use that as our basis for the release of your e-certificates. So only those who will be filling up that online evaluation form will be given certificates. So we have a question po coming from the Regional Director of PSWD COR, Director Leo Quintilla. How the COVID-19 pandemic like COVID-19 like pandemic shift some proposed provision of the creation of DDR or DRD?
Okay, thank you for that question, RD Quintilla. I think, Sir Leo, nakapag-usap niya yata tayo over the phone minsan. But anyway, napag-usapan din to naman since yun actually dun sa committee hearing last, committee meeting, no? Last August 12. Ano ba yung mga na-realize natin, no? Na mga weaknesses natin, ano ba yung what are our learnings so far from this pandemic that we can put in the DTR. Actually, that's where we're coming from. That's where we're coming from na we really need to strengthen yung continuous strengthening our whole of society approach. Na sana ay may maintain po natin na we have this, sabihin na natin, kung hindi council or body, where we really can ensure the participation of our private sector partners as well as yung mga ating mga CSO. Malaking bagay po yun, no? Na napapasok mo natin sila, whole of society. Hindi yun natin kaya as government alone. Kahit tayo, alam na natin yan. Kayo po ang RTF, RTF saka RIATF Cordillera. Napakahirap po na tayo-tayo lang. And another thing is we really just in terms of yung sa approach po, actually ang nagkulang po sa atin na hindi umabot is yung pag-establish po natin ng ating ng response plan relative to this pandemic. Unlike while we try to catch up, hindi ho lang siya nahabulan. Hindi kagaya po ng tulad dun sa OFW, may na-establish na rin po tayo. Yung NDRRMC, particularly through the efforts of Director Harold Cabreros, our incumbent Director for Operation Service. May nagawa silang parang, I think this is NDRRMC Memorandum Circular number 1 of 2020, ay yung parang response system for the OFW issue nun. Para dun sa ating mga kapatid na mga OFWs na nandun sa parang danger zone. Saan ba yun? Sa Iraq ba yun? Or sa Iraq, sa ano? I just forget where exactly, but there was that plan already. Ito naman, para sa pandemic, nagkulang lang tayo no, na ilabas yung response plan. Hindi tayo umabot in time. There was a contingency plan that was actually prepared by the WHO in coordination or in cooperation with the DOH, OCD, and all the pertinent agencies in the response, or those leading the respective clusters, response clusters. But while we try to adopt the same, nakikita natin na may weakness pa talaga kasi mismo sa pagkakaintindi ng lahat kung paano gumagana ang ating response cluster. Hindi po tulad po ngayon, ay tayo dito mismo kayo sa RDRRMC, naintindihan niya pag pinag-uusapan yung response cluster, di ba? Na may iba yan. Meron tayong shelter, meron tayong logistics, meron tayong health, may wash, no? So, yan, naiintindihan ho natin, pero maraming hindi ho nakakaintindi. Kaya nung nakita nila na bakit 8, actually 8 na nga lang from the 11, no? Kung bakit 8 yung cluster na na-identify, ay sinabi nila, bakit ang rami naman yan? Kaya naging ako po kasi isa sa mga nung initial na nag-draft nun, no? Tapos hanggang sa umabot na minodify ito at naging yung 3 task group. I think we're familiar with how the evolution of the National Task Force was. And the evolution started with 3 task groups under the National Task Force, which was the task group on response, the task group on resource mobilization and logistics, and Stratcom. Pero at least sa region, nakita ho natin na maintain yung mga clusters na mas nakasanayan na po ng ating mga kababayan, at least nung ating mga regions and the like. So in short, no, we are looking at really just coming up na napag-usapan natin to na dapat lang talaga we should be able to properly harmonize the concepts of crisis management, itong mga crisis management groups. Sabi ko groups, no, kasi kanya-kanya yan, no? Meron kang IATF EID, for terrorism you have the ATC, di ba? So paano mo i-harmonize yung mga grupong yon sa ating disaster management? So ginagawa po natin. At napakasimple naman po siya actually, no? If I may be allowed, I was hoping somebody would ask this question para ma-quickly discuss ko to. At this is more of like yung skills or bodies with respect to our LDRMOs or yung mga our DRRM system, no? Yun yung isang magandang minsan ay hindi nabibigyan ng linaw. So, allow me to quickly show you this. Ito po, I will share it on the screen. Sorry, tinake advantage ko na po yung question mo, Sir Leo. At para ma-discuss na ito. At ito ay isang working theory na ginagamit na ho natin. So, ito po. Ito po yung parang ginagamit nating jurisdictional matrix na kung saan makikita ho natin dito na itong mga nasa taas, pag human-induced disasters or threat, madali, no? Pag sa natural, madali. Itong green, blue, orange, saka itong side na to, itong kaliwa. Itong under the NDRRMC, madali yan, natural, no? Pero pag sa human-induced disasters, tumutulong rin tayo, no? Kung NDRRMC at RDRRMC, tumutulong din sa human-induced disasters by providing itong what tinatawag nating consequence management. And consequence management is this orange and purple figure. Now, dito naman sa taas, kung bakit ito naka-close na, naka-box na red, ito yung sinasabi natin crisis management. Under the crisis management system, no? Yung National Crisis Management Committee. At kanya-kanya siya mga OPR, and yung target niya is yung threat elimination. So tulad niyan, itong pagdating ngayon, for example, dito sa public health related, we're supposedly DOH ang lead, which is sila naman talaga ang chair ng IATF EID. yung isang aspect na ginagawa nito, itong grupo na to, itong IATF-EIT, ang main concern nila is really actually the aspect pertaining to the elimination of COVID-19. Threat elimination nga. Pagpasok ko naman on the matter of yung sa humanitarian assistance saka sa rehabilitation and recovery, doon pumapasok ulit yung ating NDRRMC system where ibabalance mo ngayon yan, no? So, ang lead mo, DSWD, siya pa rin nagpo-provide ng humanitarian assistance. So, medyo mas malinaw siguro pag tulad ng Marawi, na nakita natin habang nagbabakbakan sa Marawi, nandito yung NDRRMC sa likod na inaalagaan po itong mga ating internally displaced persons. So, ganun po. So, ito po, ang naging kulang na po natin, napansin natin, actually, hindi naman. Nandiyan naman yung sistema, though may kakulangan sa pagkakaintindi ng ibang tao. Nevertheless, if we can come up with that plan, that response plan to cover all of these kinds of all those identified as a human-induced disasters, ay mas napadali sana yung buhay natin. Okay. I hope that was able to answer your question, Sir Leo. Now, there is also a question from LGU. Is the setup the same? Actually, sa current po na DDR, mawawala rin po yung NDRRMC. Ang matitira na lang po yung Local Disaster Resilience Office. So, and that'll be under the full control of the local chief executive. Yun po yung yun yung repercussion. As nawala yung council. This is sa DDR, sa DDR po to. Pag nawala po yung council, mag-ano yan, kakaskade yan. Wala lahat na ng council. So, pati hanggang LGU. So, that's from the national government, the regional government, regional level, until the local government level, wala na pong councils natin. Okay. So, I think there are no other questions.
Thank you very much to Direct Leo Quintilla and Ma'am Pearl Tumbali of Balbalan, Manila. So we will resume our second part of discussion for Direct Texon John S. Lim on updates naman po tayo on the approval to guidelines for our ACP.
Okay. Supposedly, sorry, thank you. I was supposed to have my division chief Manny to share the updates kasi siya talaga nakatutok nito for a year, I think more than 1 year now. But allow me to share this with you. Okay. Paano ba niya? Okay. Share screen. Okay. Ito naman po yung updates natin on the ACDB. So regarding the ACDBs, again, this is a mandate. This is a mandated matter under RA 10121. As RA 10121 provides, Section 2, generally, apart from the general provisions, at talagang sinabi niya dito na under Section 13 is the accreditation, mobilization, and protection of disaster volunteers and NSRC, CSOs, and the private sector. So under the IRR of RA 10121, we provided that the OCD is mandated to formulate, promulgate, and issue guidelines on the accreditation, mobilization, capacity building, and protection of ACTVs. So ito po ang milestones natin. Matagal na itong usapin actually. Nagsimula yan ng 2017 pa po na nagkaroon po ng regional consultations conducted in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Such that in November of 2019, November 6 and 8 of November 2019, consultation meetings with the OCDRDs and the the first NDRRMC TWG consultation meeting was conducted. Now, in November 15, 2019, nagkaroon po ng pangalawang NDRRMC TWG consultation meeting. And December 18, 2019, was the roundtable discussion with amongst OCD officials. And then by March 10, 2020, there was the final NDRRMC TWG consultation meeting. Now, of course, apart from obviously, inabutan na naman ito ng COVID, sa totoo lang ay may hinihintay po tayo. May hinihintay po tayo na... Ayun. Sorry, Sjlt. So apart from finalizing the draft guidelines, may ginagawa po tayong database system in national roster of ACDBs. The point being is that kahit na later on I'll discuss the system itself kung at its present state, that we hope we can still refine some more and harmonize even with respect to the reserves and as well as yung mga sa NSRC, ay may din develop na tayong database system na para pag ni-roll out po natin to ay hindi na ho tayo maguguluhan. Kasi this accreditation system, it's of course about listing people. In general, it's about accrediting people and organizations. And it's important that as early as now, that before we launch it, is that we already have that system that will allow us to properly compile. Hindi yung binabaho natin, naglabas po tayo ng guidelines, tapos sa kanya-kanyang gawa ng listahan. Mahirap po yan i-harmonize mamaya. Kawawa na naman sina Director Mogul niyan na kaka-encode sila ng iba't ibang mga format. No? So maganda sa simula pa lang. Nandiyan na po talaga yung database. No? So generally, okay, the ACDB guidelines in its current form has 4 salient features. So we're talking about the minimum standards and procedures for accreditation of VMOs and CDBs. And then we have the mobilization protocols, the protection and compensatory benefits, and institutional arrangements. So sa accreditation process, generally, ito po yung steps. No? So una, syempre, application. Yung VMO is the voluntary organization. Yung volunteer mobilization organization. So kung ano man tawag sa inyo, ano man pangalan nyo, pero ang role mo is to mobilize volunteers, kayo ang mag-apply. So the VMO submits registration form, requirements, and list of certified disaster volunteers to the LDRRMO. May kulang na isang step to actually. This is already under the context na yung VMO is already may ano na siya, no? Duly accredited. So, pag duly accredited na siya, pwede na siya mag-apply kung may kompleto na yung mga requirements niya. Sorry, hindi naman duly accredited. Pag kompleto na siya sa mga requirements niya, ay pwede na siya mag-apply sa mga LDRRMO for accreditation. So the next step, the LDRRMO reviews the application and requirements. The LDRRMO then endorses the applications to the LDRRMC, where there is a decision-making process by the LDRRMC. Pag disapprove po niya, the LDRRMO informs of the outcome, citing reasons for the disapproval or accreditation. Ngayon, kung siya po ay deemed to be complete in all of its requirements, the LDRRMO then prepares and signs an MOU with the approved volunteer mobilization organization. Then there is a certificate of accreditation that will be issued by the LDRRMO. And then the transmittal of the list of ACDBs to OCD. And later on, ultimately, the issuance of an ID. Okay. So basically, nandun pa lang tayo ito yung titignan nilang system. No? I think nagkakaintindihan naman tayo kung ano yung volunteer, no? At ano yung magiging benefits po niya. So hopefully po ma-release na ho natin to, ma-final na po, at ang target natin is by sana itong October, kung kaya ay ma-release na rin to once and for all, para mabigyan na po natin ng ating mga volunteers, no, ng kahit pa paano ng konting konsuelo man lang. No? Such as for example, yung mga insurance, accident insurance, ay pwede nang bayaran or ibigay ng local government unit. With that, I think that's it. That's where we're at right now. And the presentation. Thank you. Would there be any questions or comments?
Thank you very much, Director Lee, for that update, for the accreditation of our community disaster volunteers. And I hope malinaw na po sa ating mga local DRRM officers councils, because every time we go for local DRRM assessment and provincial caravan visits sa kanila, they would always ask about updates on these ECDBs. Indeed, it was really helpful to have you, Director Lee, to discuss those important national DRRM updates to our local DRRM officers. So again, are there any questions po on pertaining to the two presentations on the Department of Disaster Resilience bills and our ACDBs na guidelines po natin?
Director Lim, sir.
Yes, sir.
For your time, and idol talaga, napaka-clear yung pag-discuss ko ng dalawang items. Palaging tinatanong ng mga provincial DRRM Council. So, thank you very much, Kuya, sir. And more power to PDPS. And rest assured that we will continue to perform all the mandated tasks given to us here at the Cordillera. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, sir. Maraming salamat din sa inyong lahat. And again, like I mentioned earlier, no, we really dito po sa central, we really do recognize the leadership and efforts of CAR, no? Talagang exemplary po ang CAR. So please keep up a good work, and please know that a lot of what you are doing is being used as best practices in all the different regions. So sir, please keep up the good work, and mabuhay po kayong lahat.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much po, sir. And that congratulations goes to all the members of our regional DRRM Council, as well as our local disaster risk reduction and management officers. Again, thank you very much, Director Texon James Lee. And congratulations po, sir. Bagong kasal po si sir, 2 weeks ago po ata. Congratulations po, sir, from your Cordillera family.
Maraming salamat. Congratulations po, condolences. Just kidding. So, hihintayin ko na lang po yung token. Ito yung ayaw ko sa Zoom meeting, nawawalan tayo ng token. Oh, just kidding. Just kidding po. Sige po. Thank you very much din po. Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Thank you very much po, sir. So, yun po yung ating first part ng ating program on the national DRRM updates. We will give you copies of the presentation, so you will have ready reference as well if you will be cascading this to your local DRRM council members. Okay, let's have a photo op po. May we request our participants to turn on their videos. Ayan, for a photo op with our resource person po. Ayan. Again, we request everyone to turn on their cameras and videos po.
Ay, kagaganda talaga ng mga taga-car. Saka kagugwapo.
Okay po, so smile po tayo. 3, 2, 1. Okay, sa next na page po tayo. Okay, next set. Ayan. And so we have around 64 participants dito sa ating Zoom, but sa 64 na ito, I think marami yung mga accounts who have more than around 3 to 5 ang actual participants who are joining us in their respective offices. So thank you very much for joining us. And again, thank you, sir, for giving us your time and valuable knowledge. Ipapadala po namin sa yung token community from the Cordillera.
Joke lang yan. Sir, good work po. Maraming salamat ulit po.
For our next part of the activity, we have our regional DRRM updates. We will start with updates on COVID-19 response and contact tracing with our operations officer from OCD CAR, Sir Frankie Cortez. This will be followed by a short presentation on the status of Bayanihan funds and local DRRM funds with Regional Director Florizelda Enriquez of the Bureau of Local Government Finance and Ma'am Marilu Gamboa. And then after that is a presentation on our national regional rehab and recovery plan for COVID-19. And last will be our preparedness for hydromet hazards against COVID-19 by DILG Cordillera. So with that, may I now call our first presenter from the Office of Civil Defense Cordillera to give us updates on our COVID-19 response activities. So good afternoon po sa ating lahat. So once again, my name is Frankie Cortez from the Office of Civil Defense Cordillera of the operations po. And please allow me to present to you the COVID-19 disease surveillance updates. Yung ating present situation pagdating po sa COVID-19, including the contact tracing methodology from the city of Baguio with our Mayor Magalong as our SAR for contact tracing. And so for our first slide, let me just provide you with quick updates of the COVID-19 surveillance. Yeah. So for the information of the body po, as of August 24, 2020, 5 p.m., we already have a total confirmed cases of COVID-19, 685. So from the last week po, pinadagdag po ng 101. And for the breakdown, sa ating mild cases, we have 188, 13 severe cases, 4 critical cases, and majority of these cases na confirmed ay asymptomatic. So out of the 685 confirmed cases of COVID-19, we have 453 or 67.11% of recovery rate, which gives us a total of 222 active cases minus yung ating 10 deaths na na-record po. So for our persons under investigation, we have a total of suspect cases na 11,234, wherein 97.01% have completed quarantine. So for our PUMs, for our close contacts, we have 58,278 with 96.32 completed quarantine. So again, majority of these cases are being handled by the Department of Health, including our local government units sa kanilang mga PPMMFs, sa kanilang mga people care centers, etc. And the next slide, will just give you the breakdown per province. Very quick lang po. So for this table that is shown to your screen, nakita natin that majority of the confirmed cases, or sabihin na natin active cases, ay nasa Baguio City pa rin. And we can see also that there's a slight rapid increase sa province of Kalinga. So 63 na rin siya, same with the province of Benguet. So for the province of Ifugao, we're very hopeful na may-maintain po yan. Wala na pong active cases sa kanila, all are recovered. And for our other provinces, please still po to follow the guidance from our RTF chair, Sir Mogol, yung ating fire safety protocols, yung ating mga minimum health standards, dapat talagang minimaintain po natin. So basically, ito po yung updates ng ating surveillance as of 5 p.m. yesterday for our surveillance ng ating COVID-19. Next slide. And to show you a quick graphical presentation, so in the first quarter or mga first 3 months ng ating operations for COVID-19, mababa po talaga yung ating record for that year. But because of the expanded risk-based testing in the whole Cordillera, plus the downgrading of the enhanced community quarantine, the GCQ, and naging modified GCQ tayo, so tumaas po yung percentage ng mobility ng mga tao. And let's include as well yung ating movement ng mga locally stranded individuals, ng ating mga ROFs. And this has provided a big impact sa ating surveillance. Majority of our cases in the Cordillera are actually coming from the COVID-19 infected areas like the NCR or the Metro Manila. And from our ROFs naman, yung mga infected countries din. So let's always ensure that our biosafety protocols are in place. So in addition to this presentation, I would like to share to you the retooled contact tracing system of the Baguio City. Ito po yung ating tinitingnan na model from the city of Baguio with Mayor Benjamin B. Magalong as our contact tracing star. So next slide. So the conceptual framework of this contact tracing methodology comprises of 3 premises, major premises. Yung ating test, isolate, and treat. So basically, itong tatlong premises po na ito is very aligned doon sa ating PDITR strategy, which is under the NAP2 or NAP Phase 2. So in these 3 major premises, meron po tayong 4 po na sub-premises, which are being conducted in cycle to maximize or fasten the contact tracing of close contacts, yung mga nakasalamuhan ng isang confirmed cases. So we will be starting with the interview and to identify yung mga pinanggalingan niya, yung mga nakasalamuhan niya, and then the profile of these close contacts or yung mga traced contacts na ito. Then we start to locate them. And then ulit-ulitin lang po natin yung processing yun until we get, until na makuha natin yung mga close contacts. And that's the time that we isolate them, we monitor their health status, or we test. Next slide. Yeah, so for the COVID-19 incident management workflow, so for example, we got the positive confirmed case dun ng COVID. So the contact tracing team secures all personal circumstances of the positive patient. So lahat ng mga gamit niya, lahat ng mga napunta niya, kailangan natin lahat. And then nagkakandak na siya ng interview. So this is the first step at our mayor. Our local chief executive orders barangay lockdown. So kung mapapansin po natin, ang ating COVID-19 confirmed patients or sometimes develops clustering. And so this include yung ating yung pagkandak po na ating localized or granular lockdown. So identified yung mga areas na mga confirmed cases, and that's why the mayor or the local chief executive orders for that to have the following activities to be undertaken. And syempre, pag meron po tayong lockdown, our PNP or mga municipal police station, city police station will now be deploying teams to secure the premises. Ayan, so after which, so syempre, when the personal circumstances of patient was already were already secured, ayun na, so the contact tracing will be launched. While it is being launched or being conducted, again our mayor informs the patient and appeals. So please take note of the word appeal. Hindi po natin pino-force ang ating mga confirmed cases na i-disclose po yung kanilang identity. So it is a matter of appealing to the confirmed case or patient para sa full disclosure ng mga data niya, yung mga napuntahan niya, etc. etc. And if it is allowed by the patient, our public information office, yung ating mga information officers, provides a dissemination para at least mapabilis po yung pag-track ng mga close contacts. And in addition, our mayor informs the local IETF, the management committee, the contact tracing teams, and the Sangguniang Pangunsod for proper actions and possible policy recommendations. And after that, our city disaster reduction management office, yung mga LDOs po, they conduct decontamination or disinfection sa mga napuntahan ng mga facilities, mga market siguro, mga malls, napuntahan ng sa bahay mismo, and all the places na napuntahan ng ating confirmed case to ensure the biosafety ng ating mga places na nabanggit. For the basic principles of this contact tracing methodology, so this nag-group po ito dahil sa ating buting mayor ay dating PNP personnel po, dating director ng Procor, and dating investigator din ng ating pulisya. So naka-ankla din po dito sa prinsipyo na ito, yung law enforcement na ginagawa po nila yung investigation techniques. Ayan, so seamless collaboration between the law enforcement, investigators, and health authorities. Second, the transparency and speed are indispensable. So upon knowing na meron po tayong confirmed cases, every second matters na. So not every hours, not every day, but every second. So ganyan po kabilis ang kailangan maging reaction time in case magkaroon po tayo ng mga confirmed cases sa ating mga locality. Okay, so ang basic standard actually ng ating city of Baguio is that in 3 hours, sana ma-trace na lahat. So ganun po kabilis ang ating contact tracing dapat. And then the cognitive interviewing skill is the key to efficient collection of information. This cognitive interviewing skill is a learned skill na kailangan din po natin pag-aralan mabuti. We are not just asking them mga confirmed cases ng kung ano man ang pumasok sa isip natin na katanungan, but we need to be careful when we're trying to dissect information from them. And fourth principle is the use of technology. Yung mga analytical tools, the use of the information communication technology, our GIS platform, are also indispensable for the conduct of contact tracing. Later, we will see yung mga ginagamit po ng City of Baguio on their contact tracing activities. Next slide. And so to proceed, there also the successful contact tracing is highly dependent on the quality of information. So the more we get factual information, the more we have quality of information na we can use for our contact tracing. Next, there is no substitute to be proactive. This is in relation to the sense of urgency na kailangan natin in case na magkakandak po tayo ng contact tracing. Also, the local chief executives play a major role in contact tracing, especially sa ating sa ating pag-appeal sa ating mga confirmed patient sa pag-reveal ng kanilang identity. That needs the passion or the compassion from the local chief executives. Next is the yung ating extensive testing is critical also to contact tracing. So the main reason why they do lockdowns, they do localized or granular lockdowns, is para makabilis po yung ating testing din. So again, extensive testing is critical for contact tracing. Yeah, so again, for the contact tracing, nakalagay po dito that there is a need to change the present organizational structure. So for the methodology of City of Baguio, ganito po yung kanilang contact tracing ecosystem. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 members or parang parameters that is being observed sa ecosystem na ito. Number 1 is the interviewers, ating mga health workers and investigators. again, employing the principle of the cognitive questioning. Okay, so analysts, so for the usage of the GIS and other analytical tools like the link analysis tools, kailangan po natin ng mga analysts na talagang magaling mag-analyze ng mga data, information, at mga graphs. And then our encoders, the data collection tool. Ayan. For the technical support, since the use of the information technology is critical also in this contact tracing, the specialty or the expertise of information technologies, yung mga ating computer technicians are very critical then in this contact tracing activities. And syempre, employing the whole government or whole society approach, we also need the community support. Yeah, so we have the DHERs and other organizations that are helping us in this contact tracing. Yeah, so again, for the contact tracers or contact tracing interviewers, the following are suggested. And for 20 cases and below, daily 2 to 3 tips per case. And above 20 cases, daily 1 tip per case. Okay, so for the analyst, for the analytical tools, ideal po is 2 cases per analyst. And not more than 3 cases per analyst. So this will be in 1 is to 2. For our encoders, the publicity was known to have utilized our teachers, volunteers, na tumulong din sa kanila pag-encode ng mga data or information, not only on the contact tracing side, but also sa ating social amelioration cards. So again, for our encoders, our local government units can maximize the utilization of the volunteers, mga students, yung mga BFPBs, BGMP, or CSOs na present po sa ating mga localities. For our technical support, again, our information technology division personnel are very essential for this contact tracing. For our community support, again, for 1 is to 1,000 po ang proportions, ang suggested na proportionality po ng 1 BHERT ay for 1,000 population. Ayan, so kung ang population niyo sa barangay niyo ay 1,000, you need 1 BHERT. However, that's only the minimum. You can increase your BHERTs as long as you have the human resource. For our swabbers, you can have 1 team can swab 30 to 50 contacts per day. Ayan, so ito po yung mga suggested na ano po natin, mga parameters po natin for our contact tracing as per the Baguio City methodology. For our contact tracing e-system, we have 3. Ito po yung sinasabi ko that our information technology personnel are critical at some point of this contact tracing activity because of these platforms. We have the 3 platforms under this e-system. We have the COVID-19 data collection tool, the GIS platform, and the analytical tool or the link analysis na ginagamit po nila sa City of Baguio. So we start with the data collection tool. Alright, so for our case investigation form, meron po tayong website or application po that where our contact tracing teams are putting the information for databasing. So as shown in your screen are the following information being gathered from confirmed cases or mga close contacts, mga PUIs or mga PUMs na in-investigahan po natin. Right? So when you encode this data or information, na nag-provide po itong sistema na ito ng mga summary or mga table summaries para hindi mahirapan po yung ating mga encoders and data analysts sa pag-analyze ng mga data na ito. Okay, so again, so in this system, makikita po natin kaagad yung mga places of engagement, the mode of transportation. We can see kaagad kung saan tayo tutungo dun sa mga activities related sa contact tracing like yung contamination, yung pag-isolate ng mga close contacts. Dito natin kaagad makikita. So, importante din dun sa remarks area, yung mga naging areas of concern or mga personal circumstances, dyan po nilalagay. So, for the persons interacted with, again, i-input dito lahat po. Contacts, so merong 1, merong 3, merong 8, 6, gano'n. So, next slide. So this collection tool also provides us a dashboard na kung saan nakikita natin yung mga summary. So this dashboard is very important pagdating sa decision making at sa mga resource mobilization. So dito makikita yung mga totality ng mga or yung surveillance updates ng isang munisipyo or ng city or ng isang probinsya pagdating sa mga nakalagay din sa screen natin na mga patients like probable cases, possible cases, confirmed cases, etc. So we go now to the GIS platform na ginagamit po ng City of Baguio. Ayan, so again, the usage of GIS is very important din as well sa mga ibang disasters like entitlement, earthquake. GIS is very important pagdating sa mga data disease monitoring din. So for the GIS platform, so it captures, it stores, manipulates, analyze, manage, and present all types of geographical data related to COVID-19 cases. It also overlays yung ating COVID-19 affected areas, district, barangay applications, areas of checkpoints and lockdowns, barangay health centers, hospitals, satellites, or satellite markets, and other critical facilities. The second item will provide you a very good information pagdating sa pag-constitute or pag-aproba ng mga executive order ng mga granular or localized lockdowns. So kung titignan mo lang sa GIS ko, alam mo na kagad kung anong barangay or sitio or street or household yung na-infected area. So you can have easier access dun sa mga information na ito. Hindi mo na kailangan pang puntahan yung area at i-survey yung manual. You can use the GIS platform to pass on that. Visualize COVID-19 data in many ways that reveal relationships, patterns, and trends, and its confirmed cases, and its possible spread of infections. So again, using this GIS platform, you can actually see or project yung mga posibleng clustering na mangyayari sa inyong barangay, sa inyong munisipyo, and it will let you plan ahead dun sa mga gagawin ninyo mga mitigating actions or response operations para ma-isolate natin yung mga cases na ito hindi na kumalat. Ayan, so for example, this one, so you can see in your screen that sa paggamit po ng GIS na ito, you can easily identify yung mga areas of concern where you can have the localized lockdowns, the granular lockdowns, you can have the focus of response operations, o yung mga mitigating factors na ginagawa po natin. So makita mo na kaagad siya. And you can actually zoom this. So if you have the GIS platform, for example, our Google Earth, pwede mo kaagad siyang i-zoom, makita yung mga sitios and households na affected po ng COVID-19. Next slide po. Ayan, so for our third tool under the E-system of this contact tracing methodology, we have the analytical tool or the link analysis. And this was originated actually sa investigative tool na ginagamit din ng National Police natin, which was adopted by our good mayor in this contact tracing activity. So this link analysis will provide you different views on how one patient could infect or transfer the virus to others by looking into their daily activities. And it will show you the gaps and creates more opportunities on how to properly track down those contacts of the patient through the timeline. For the next slide, yung sample po ng ating link analysis. Although medyo komplikado po yung imaging niya. However, when you start with yung pinakataas po niya na isang confirmed cases, makita niyo po kagad dito sa analysis na ito that it can infect more people, actually, maraming people with this one person. Kung titignan natin yung mga daily routines niya, yung mga orange points po na nakita niyo po dyan sa screen natin, yan po yung mga daily circumstances niya. And that arrows, yung mga arrows po na nakikita niyo, mga linya na po yan, that's the number of persons or yung mga areas na pwede niyang pag-spreadhan ng mga COVID-19 niya. Okay, so next slide. So for the communications naman of these contact tracing teams, they usually use Viber short messaging systems, pag-text ng ating mga information. And as shown sa inyong screen are actually samples of information na yung correspondence na nangyayari sa ating mga contact tracing teams. Ayan, so for example, yan, so household, merong 7 na close contacts, and all of them are already tested with RT-PCR. Ayan, so this is how they do the contact tracing communications sa City of Baguio. Next slide. Ayan, this is just for appreciation of our participants from the local government units. And even sa mga teachers po natin sa mga schools po, this is how contact tracing operations look like at the City of Baguio. So again, showing you the 3 tools being used under the contact tracing system. We have the dashboard of the data collection tool, the GIS platform, and the analytical tool or the link analysis na ginagamit po ng City of Baguio. Ayan, so it is being manned by our volunteers, yung mga nasabi ko kanina, mga community support teams, our data analysts, our encoders. Ayan, so next slide. Ayan, so just to show you yung ating operations center, yung setup po nila doon. And I think this can be adapted din po sa ating mga lokal na pamahalaan para at least meron po tayong monitoring room din, or operation center sa pag-monitor ng mga confirmed cases. Yan, so yan po yung ating mga gamit, mga tools. Ayan. So let's go to the disclosure of identities. Again, the local chief executive is the one who appeals. Nakikiusap po ang ating mga local chief executive, ang ating mayor, ang ating mga punong barangay, ang mga local officials sa ating mga confirmed cases para dun sa pag-disclose ng kanilang mga identity to para makabilis po yung ating contact tracing activity. Again, let me emphasize that we are not forcing our, sa sistema po ng City of Baguio, they are not forcing our confirmed patient to disclose his or her identity. We appeal to them. Ayan, so ito po example ng mga nag-disclose ng mga information. And I think some of you, or majority of you, are seeing the post of the Baguio City Public Information Office sa mga confirmed cases na ito. And sometimes, our close contacts are the ones na talagang sila na mismo yung nag-message sa ating mga public officials dito po sa City of Baguio. Sabi nila na, Sir, Ma'am, I am the one na ako po ay isang close contact din. Nakasalamuha ko po yung isang close confirmed case po. And then, sa sistema na po ito, napapabilis yung ating contact tracing team na sa paghahanap ng mga close contacts. Ayan, so next. Okay, so I think I've already provided with you the overall or the salient features of the City of Baguio's contact tracing methodology with, again, with the 3 contact tracing e-system tools. We have the data collection tool, the link analysis, and the GIS platform. So with that, we'll now be turning over the microphone to our host for today, Sir. Okay, thank you very much, Sir Frankie. So, are there any questions po from our participants? Okay, so yun po yung latest na update natin on COVID-19. Sa COVID-19 na response natin at the regional level. And of course, some updates on the contact tracing as well as the best practices na ginagamit ng ating region for to monitor and manage the consequences of this COVID-19 pandemic. If there are no other questions po, we proceed to our next presentation, updates on the utilization of the Bayanihan Grant and the Local Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Fund of our LGUs. Joining us in our loop, we have the Regional Director of the Bureau of Local Government Finance, Director Florizelda Enriquez, and to present our updates. We have Ma'am Marilu Gamboa, our local Treasury Operations Officer from DRG.
Del. Good afternoon. Inayos pa yung presentation. Containment.
Ma'am, you may proceed with your presentation.
Okay, sir. Commodore Director Mogul, all RDs of the different agencies, and to everyone, good afternoon. On behalf of the Bureau of Local Government Finance, led by Director Maria Florisilda Enriquez, I'm honored to update you on the status of fund utilization on the Bayanihan Grant to LGUs and the 5% LDRRMF. To begin with, I would like to inform you again that the Bayanihan grants to all LGUs is equivalent to 1 month IRA for cities and municipalities, while for the provinces is equivalent to 1/2 of their monthly IRA. Please allow me to present the updated status of the Bayanihan grants. The total allocation received by Cordillera amounting to 1,144,920,941. In the province of Abra, they received 233,553,052. Yun po yung ito yung details nito is kasama na yung province in the 27 municipalities. As of July 31, which we gathered from the different LGUs, the percentage of being obligation is 93% over their allocation, while for the disbursement is 86%. So nakikita natin dito na mas malaki yung obligation. So once na may obligation naman na nandun na, pero siguro hindi pa na-disburse ito kasi may mga lacking documents pa na kailangan nilang i-attach for the LGU. For the province of Apayao, the allocation they have received is 151,291,045 pesos. And as to their obligation, they garnered 83% yung nagagastang obligation nila, while for the disbursement is 51% only. In the province of Benguet, we have 201,123,875. For the obligation, they have obligated almost 84%, while the disbursement is 63. So mas maliit talaga yung sa disbursement. In the province of Ifugao, we have 145,080,446, and their obligation is 66%, and for the disbursement 64%. So parang 2% lang yung difference doon against their obligation. With regards to the province of Kalinga, they have received 119,034,491 with a disbursement obligation of 84% and 54% for the disbursement. For the province of Mountain, we have 123,189,417. And for the obligation, they have obligated 81%, and for the disbursement, 51%. For the city of Baguio, they have received 78,107,145. As to their obligation, they have obligated 88% and disbursement of 33%. For the city of Tabuk, we have 93,541,470. And for the obligation, they have 64%. So with the disbursement. So whatever they have obligated, yun na rin yung disbursement nila for Tabuk City. So that's for the Bayanihan Grant. Before I continue with the Ndrm, any question po sa mga LGUs? So sa overall pala, yung sa obligation for the overall in province ay sa obligation we have 82%, while the disbursement is only 62%. So there's a difference of 20%.
So, overall also, mamana.
Hello? Nag-mute? Linat pa tayo?
Wala ako. Hindi mo may some problem.
Sir? We have some problems sa connection?
Ma'am, you may proceed po sa presentation muna ng Local DRRM.
Sige. Okay. Thank you, sir. For the Ndrm, for the status of local disaster risk reduction in management fund utilization for CAR. For the province of Abra, for the 70%, ito yung which represent the disaster prevention and mitigation preparedness, response and rehabilitation and recovery. So sa province of Abra, they almost spent 42% as to their 70%. Then for the province of Apayao, they have disbursed almost 32%. So yun ako muna yung 70%. For the province of Benguet, they have 14%. In the province of Ifugao, they have disbursed 7% only for the 70% all Ndrm. For Kalinga, they have disbursed 70%. For Mountain Province, 13%. And for the city of Baguio, they have not disbursed yet for their 70%. Equivalent to further allocation on 70% is 71,050,000. In the city of Tabuk, they have 41,361,838 and they spend only 4%. For the 30%, which is the quick response fund, for the province of Abra, their allocation is 54,876,203. They have spent 74%. For the province of Apayao, they have an allocation of 45,807,984.77. And they have spent 79%. For the province of Benguet, their total allocation is 56,093,407.69, and they have spent 49%. In the province of Ifugao, they have 36,572,035 and 10 centavos with 75% yung nagagastos dito for Ifugao. In the province of Kalinga, they have an allocation of 33,183,836. They almost spent 89%. For the province of Mountain, they have 31,957,789.59. They have spent 62%. For the city of Baguio, they have an allocation of 30,450,000 and they have 14% expenditures. And for the city of Tabuk, they have an allocation of 17,726,502.23 and they almost spent 99%. Sila yung pinakamataas ng expenditures sa 30%. Sa Quick Response Fund. So yung dito sa 4 provinces, kasama na rin po dito yung, nasum up na po dito yung municipalities. So that's all for the report. of BLGF CAR. Any question po?
Okay, thank you very much po, Ma'am Malu from the Bureau of Local Government Finance, and of course, to the Regional Director of PLGF, Ma'am Florizel Enriquez. Siguro nagtatanong yung mga LGUs natin why we presented this one. It is important na for us at the regional level also, and of course, para sa mga LGUs natin to know yung update ng kanilang local DRRM fund and financial plans. Because remember po, overlapping na yung crisis na nangyayari sa atin ngayon. So while we are monitoring and while we are spending for COVID-19, we also have to ensure na later on, in the succeeding months of the year, while we are still at the middle of typhoon season, dapat ay ma-ensure natin na may mga standby funds pa na available yung mga LGs natin in case we anticipate a worst case scenario of a hydromet hazard for this year and other disasters, hazards affect our community. So are there any questions from our local government units po in relation to this presentation?
Hello?
Yes, po.
Wala lang. Hello? Wala eh.
Yes po, ma'am. Sige po. You may proceed po.
May mga questions, sir?
We are still waiting, ma'am. Wala pa pong questions. And, please standby na lang po, ma'am, in case may mga questions po sila after all our presentations po.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much again to our partners from the Bureau of Local Government Finance. Next is a presentation of our Regional Recovery and Resiliency Plan with our partners from the National Economic Development Authority, presented
After presentation na,
Ilan pa
ano
ba
yung sinesend dyan?
Malamang may challenge lang nila yung
Napakasarap talaga.
Hindi ka na makabalik ulit?
Hindi naman. Yun ang
Hello, sir.
Yes, ma'am Mars, you may now proceed po. I-share namin yung screen po.
Okay. Can I just share the slide? Sir
Ma'am,
Birds, pwedeng ako na lang pong mag-share ng slide?
ma'am, okay po. Okay po.
Okay. Can you see the slide po?
Yes po, ma'am.
Okay. So,
Ma'am, presentation, ano na lang po? Presentation format. Full screen po, ma'am. Thank you.
okay na po. Kita na siya.
Yes po, ma'am.
Okay. So, good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the chair of the vice chair of the Rehab and Recovery Committee, I'll be presenting the Regional Recovery and Resiliency Program from COVID-19 of the region. So this RRP was approved during the RDRRMC meeting last May 27. So the recovery program aims to assess the effects and long-term impacts of COVID-19 in the region. It also proposes a region-specific framework and recommends specific mitigating measures and projects both for the short and long term. So in the formulation of our RRP, it's very essential to have our baseline data. So this baseline data, of course, came from our PDNA, and we extend our thanks to all the agencies and the LGUs who participated in the PDNA. Although it's unfortunate that not all the PDRRMOs were involved in the post-disaster needs assessment, but we have requested all the provinces to provide input especially dun sa ating mga recovery programs. We also use the surveys uh, initiated by NEDA, DTI, and DOT, as well as the vulnerability assessment made by POPCOM, and the FASTER program developed by DOST together with the Higher Education Institute, which were used by DOH. So these baseline data were the basis for our data in the formulation of our regional recovery plan or program. Although this is just to show the effects of COVID-19 in the region, so this data were the latest we have posted in our RRP. So this was as of May 17. So at that time, we have seen we only have less than 50 confirmed cases at that time, and were concentrated only in Abra, Baguio, Benguet, and Ifugao. But as of the moment, as mentioned by Sir Frankie a while ago, we have reached almost 685 region-wide, and all the provinces, the cities have recorded confirmed cases. In terms of losses, in the PDNA that we have conducted, the amount of 18.6 billion were reported losses. These are in the following sectors: the social, the productive sector, the infra, and the cost sector. So these losses are in terms of foregone income, higher operating costs, and other unexpected expenses. So unlike yung mga previous disaster natin like Kompong and Rosita, kung sa kanila during those times, ang highly affected were the infra sector, maraming mga nasirang mga tulay, roads, and farms. For COVID-19, the most affected are the productive sector, especially sa mga establishment, both the establishments and the services, both agri and non-agri. So as to the impact on our gross domestic product, we have estimated a decrease of 4.83%, or equivalent to 15.6 billion. So we have seen here that the agriculture is affected by 1.6 billion, while our industry and services posted losses amounting to 13.96 billion. We have also noticed that from January to April of 2020, we have recorded decrease or increasing prices, particularly in our highland products, the vegetables, and also the fruits. And then we also have been importing fish from other regions, considering that yung mga fish natin in the region hindi siya na-harvest because of the quarantine or lockdown. So ito yung mga losses per sector. So for the social sector, we have 753.6 million. Much of these losses were in the health and nutrition subsector, followed by the education and the social protection. Although dito sa education, konti lang yung mga na-capture natin na losses, hindi pa natin na-record yung mga nasa losses in the higher education institute and then yung mga private elementary and secondary schools. Under the productive sector, we have incurred 2.6 billion losses. So karamihan ng mga losses natin in terms of the subsectors, we have dun sa EPSA natin in our express eco zones, amounting to 4.2 billion. Okay. Sa infra naman po, we have recorded 3.6 billion. Most of these losses were in terms of yung mga cost losses, yung mga hindi natuloy na stop na mga road projects. And then for the cross-sector losses were in terms of the government's assistance to our LGUs. Uh, so we have the Bayanihan Grant to LGUs and also the Bayanihan Act or the Social Amelioration Program that were provided to our population. So this amounts to 3.27 billion. So nandito na rin yung report kanina to our LGUs in Bayanihan Grant. We have also included in our recovery program the use of this uh, vulnerability assessment uh, uh, um, developed by PAPCOM in terms of analyzing the vulnerability of barangays in the region. So as you can see here in this presentation, the the highest, the areas with highly vulnerable barangays in CAR, ito yung mga naka-red. So marami sa Benguet, and Ifugao. Barangays are reported in Abra. I think this report by PAPCOM were also shared by DOST together with the higher education institute such as Ateneo. Ito yung ito yung ginagamit nila sa pag-forecast ng mga possible confirmed cases. So this is being utilized to determine whether to extend yung mga quarantine in that paano yung pag-identify nila or the status of quarantine in the respective region or LGUs. So maganda if the LGUs will also use this faster program to have a forecast scenario on how COVID, paano yung magiging pag-peak ng cases ng COVID in their respective LGUs. Maybe you can ask, the LGUs can ask DOST through Ma'am Hansi on how paano gamitin yung ating faster software. So this is our recovery framework for COVID-19. So we hope to have a safer, adaptive, and resilient Cordillera communities that is free from risk and can cope with recovery and that can cope with and recover quickly from pandemic. Overall outcome we envision is to have a socio-economic condition restored with higher level of resilience in response to the new normal. So we have these 4 sectoral outcome. Binis din natin kung paano natin ginawa yung mga dun sa sector platform natin dun sa losses. So we have the productive sector, we have the sectoral outcome in the productive, the social, the infra, and the cross sector. So basically this framework, we use the national guidelines in crafting our regional framework, which the LGU can also adapt in crafting their respective recovery and resiliency program. So in terms of strategies, we have identified several strategies per sector. So ito yung mga nakuha natin during our consultations, both with the LGU, the agencies, and even with our private sector partners. In terms of the social sector, we hope to assure the public of adequate and undisrupted social protection. And this can be through strengthening social protection program for vulnerable sectors. For the LGU, yun sa strictly implement standards and guidelines on addressing health emergencies, as well as to ensure undisrupted supply chain of needed medical supplies. Uh, for our productive sector, we have to capacitate our farmers and fisher folk on processing and value adding to products para hindi na nabubulok yung mga products ng mga farmers natin. We have to tap farmers as suppliers for government feeding programs and relief operations. Baguio has been adapting the urban agriculture and community gardening, so we hope the other LGUs will also promote this initiative of the Department of Agriculture. We utilize supply chain regulatory, impact assessment, and supply analysis dashboard. And of course, we should capacitate now our farmers to have online transactions so that not only the middlemen ang nagbe-benefit dito, but of course but the farmers themselves. They will market their produce. And then here we hope to establish additional eco zones outside Baguio, aside from supporting the Balik Probinsya program, but to encourage more livelihood and expand development outside of Baguio. As we have seen earlier, malaki yung naibibigay na development of an eco zone. So this is a challenge for Kalinga kasi meron na silang they want to engage in having an economic zone, as well as for Abra meron ng existing na economic zone, so might as well develop these areas. For the infrastructure, we have to enhance design of government facilities to address pandemic situations such as the quarantine areas. It was reported in one of the RDRRMC meeting that a DPWH will be constructing a mga quarantine facility. Okay. And then for the cross sector is the establishment of sufficient, reliable, and affordable IT infra and support services, physical distancing requirements, and to continue LGU operations. So this is a challenge also for Kalinga. Based on our report, Kalinga has yet to accept the establishment of a free Wi-Fi access. So far, wala pang acceptance ang Kalinga to establish one. So sayang naman the opportunity for this to have a we should this being the new normal, so we should adapt yung pagkakaroon ng a strong internet connectivity in our localities. Develop system for online communication and transactions in government institutions. Yun sa meeting, permitting, licensing, sana ma-automate na yung mga process na to. And the construction or improve the existing facilities, yung mga evacuation center natin, our multipurpose building that can be utilized as quarantine facilities. So these are some of the strategies that we can adapt so to us to cope with the effect of COVID-19 and other disasters. Our recovery and resiliency program has estimated 33.4 billion investment. So in terms yung breakdown niya, majority of which are to be funded by agencies. That's 47% or 15.58 billion, followed by the local government units at 40% or 13.3 billion. The NDRRM fund is at 4.4 billion, while the other funding sources, PPP, public-private partnership, and the ODA, these are international funding source. So we can see here that aside from regular budget, malaki ang contribution. This is the commitment of the LGUs for us to recover from pandemic. So 40% has been committed by our LGUs. These were from our provinces. They committed this amount to recover from COVID-19. In terms of NDRRM funding, ito po yung mga na-identify during our workshop. These are the programs to be funded by the NDRRM. So the construction of evacuation center, public toilets, agri-support, establishment of provincial quarantine or holding facility, and the equipage of infectious disease building. So yan yung mga na-identify. And then for major PPAs naman, so these are region-wide. These are region-wide PPAs which the agencies and the LGUs will be implementing from 2020 to 2022. So dito sa productive sector, dito yung mga malalaking amounts on our agri-support, input, mga seedlings, our irrigation, as well as dito sa ating lending or credit support for farmers and business sector, particularly our MSMEs. So yan yung mga major PPAs. Under the social sector naman, we have the procurement of medical equipment, supplies and medicines, the expansion of hospital and health facilities, and we have the training for teachers on alternative learning methods. So those are our high impact projects and the rest. For both infra and the cross sector, we have the improvement and upgrading of roads. Karamihan ng mga projects na to came from our LGUs. Our disaster preparedness programs amounting to 2.9 billion. Yan, nabanggit ulit yung construction of public comfort rooms with wash area and other governance projects. Including nandiyan na rin yung waste management and disposal, particularly of healthcare and infectious waste. So I think so that's all for the highlights of our recovery and resiliency program.
Thank you very much to Ma'am Mars. Tom, before you end your presentation, maybe also request, especially now that most of our LGs are now in the process of budget hearings ng kanilang mga funds for 2021. Siguro, ano yung recommendation ng NEDA Corpus, the Vice Chair for Rehab and Recovery, how they will mainstream the PPAs that we identified in this rehab plan to their budget for 2021.
Hello?
Go ahead, Ma'am.
So, as we have seen earlier, as reported by PLGF, so meron pang natitira na mga, most of, as we have noticed in the report of PLGF, most of the 70% allocated na LDRRM fund were not utilized. So this, we encourage our LGUs to utilize this amount para mga kinumit nila na programs under RRP. So for example, for Baguio's, for example, for the province of Apayao, Hello? Hello? Can you hear me po?
Yes po, Ma'am Mars. Okay po.
Mars, you can go ahead. You're coming in.
Okay. So for example, in the province of Apayao, they have committed under the Under social services, they have committed 546 million for the for their health for their health programs. So 192 million for 2020, 202 million for 2021, and 152 million for 2022. So we encourage them na sana yung mga nilagay nila dito na PPA under our RRP, they will implement, especially yung mga nakakommit na nakaprogram for this year.
Thank you very much.
Yun po, sir.
Ma'am, may we also ask at the RTC level, sa level po ng ating RTC and sa ibang mga natin at the national level, especially sa budget preparation, paano din natin ito na mainstream po for our budget for 2021 also?
Okay, so we have prepared an issue paper to be presented by Director Mila on March 28. We have prepared 5 issues, one of which is requesting our respective agencies, the national agencies, including the MDRRM, to fund to ensure the funding of our rehab and recovery program, particularly dun yung mga non-identified na regional agency budget, and also our NDRRM request for funding na 4.4 billion. I hope kasi they have requested us to provide highlight of our RRP. I hope this will be considered by the cabinet secretaries in their meeting on Friday.
Thank you very much po, ma'am. At our end po sa Regional Task Force, we also sent copies of our recovery plan sa mga congressmen po natin who are at the House of Representatives, especially sa Benguet congressman natin who is the chair of the Committee on Appropriations at the lower house ng ating Congress po. Okay, thank you very much, Ma'am Mars. So are there any more questions from our participants po? May question po tayo from Direct Texon Lim, sir.
Nandito pa ako. Yes. No, actually, maganda yung sinabi mo, no? Ferdy, no? Ferdy, I think, since tama yun, no, na you reached out to your congressman, it's important even in the discussions of the DDR, or even now, it's important for us to be able to also somehow advocate, particularly to DBM, that they restore the Prevention and Mitigation Fund. Ang nangyayari po kasi sa atin, I think NEDA will actually be familiar with this, and as well as our other, ang Ndrm Fund right now, sa GAA po natin, is limited to because of the special provisions of the GAA. Our Ndrm Fund is limited to only funding rehabilitation and recovery programs. So may pagkamali na iniisip po natin na makakapag-fund lang tayo ng mga itong prevention and mitigation programs unless nandun siya sa mga regular budget ng DPWH, ay kailangan masira muna bago pondohan. Nawawalan tayo ng pinagkukunan ng identified projects na regions. Of course, this is apart from the fact that we still do have a lack of proper identification of programs. Sorry, I'm going to connect this to my past experience, that is rehab and recovery, where we were advocating na dapat yung mga recovery plans na to ay umaakyat at nagiging basehan ng Ndrm Fund, no? Sorry, I'm going to backtrack muna dun sa rehab and recovery. Sana po kasi maganda kung manggaling rin sa regions mismo. Na dapat, na from our NEDA partners, na dapat in the planning process for the GAA or for kung magkano yung amount ng Ndrm Fund, ay may components na siya kung ano yung popondohan nila. 'Di ba? Kasi plano po nga yan eh. So plano yan. So kung approve yan, dapat kung na-approve yan sa region, dapat maganda nga sana kung magawa natin ng proseso na ma-approve yan sa NDRRMC. And siya ngayon ang magiging basis kung magkano yung NDRRM fund na hihingin sa bawat taon. Para mabigyan naman natin ng buhay yung ating plano. Siguro po, sorry, hindi ko nakita lahat ng mga slides, pero maganda rin sana kung ma-divide niyan into per year. Magkano yung allocation nyo per year. At wag lang siyang lump sum. Ang nagiging problema kasi po, pag nilamsam lang po natin siya at hindi siya programmatic per year, ay nagiging parang ano lang siya, no? Wish list kung ano yung dapat gawin. So kailangan programmatic na rin siya para pwede natin siyang hingian ng tinatawag natin ngayong MICA. I think we're familiar with the MICA also, no? This is the one that replaced the MAYOA when we converted into cash-based budgeting. So hindi na tayo ayun, dapat may per year, ano? Sorry lang, hindi ko masyado natandaan kung nandun sa ano. Kung magkano yung per year allocation. Tapos siguro maganda na ipaglaban natin yan. Na, ayun, yung magkano investment per year. Siya ang importante. Siguro dapat ipaglaban natin ito talaga. So, and we would have to also rally the other regions. So that on the national, ito ngayon ang magiging basihan ng ating NDRRM Fund. Kasi ang katotohanan ngayon, ang NDRRM Fund, bahala na kung magkano naisip ni DBM ibigay, which is usually, ang regular NDRRM Fund, nasa 8 to 10 million. No? So ganun lang. So yung 8 to 10, tas bahala na kung paano siya mahati-hati. Wala siya talagang funding. Pero siguro, Ferdy, yung sa pinakita mo kaninang slide, you have to also show kung ano yung portion, kung ano yung funded locally, tapos ano yung kailangan from the national government. Tapos i-applyan natin yan. Ito yung ginawa namin sa Task Force Bangon Marawi. I was head of Secretariat of the National Task Force Bangon Marawi. Pinresent namin sa DBM, pero kailangan pa natin silang advocatean dahil hindi pa nila masyadong mag-get yung ganong concept and ayaw pa nilang pumayag doon na matali sila. Then going back to my other point kanina, sana maganda rin na pwedeng advocate natin coming from the regions. Again, that we are able to request the DBM to reduce also, or I'm sorry, the DBM to expand the coverage of the NDRRM Fund. Currently, the NDRRM Fund is, again, by special provision, limited to rehabilitation and recovery. So, minsan wala tayong So, while ngayon, pwede nating i-take advantage yan, but nevertheless, I guess later on, you have some projects na gusto nyong pasukin. Kailangan yung NDRRM Fund, mabalik natin sa naka-provision ng RA 10121 that the NDRRM Fund can support programs and projects and activities that are related to prevention and mitigation, preparedness, response, and rehabilitation and recovery. At this point in time, I would like to share that the NDRRM Fund is only supporting activities relative or programs relative to response, yung QRF, tapos yung NDRRM Fund is only supporting rehab and recovery. So nawawalan tayo ng prevention and mitigation saka preparedness. No? That is something that I think we should also take a look at. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kuya Sir. Very timely yung pag-present namin because alam naman namin, kaya ka namin imbitahan because of your experience being the former chief of the RRMS, the Central Office. So ito po ay pinag-usapan namin as early as April, agenda. And then we form a technical working group kasi pinase namin ito sa budget cycle. And then timely rin during the North Luzon Quadrangle meeting, presided by the chair, the representative Quico. No? So isa rin ito sa pinag-usapan and alam na rin po nila na the Cordillera Administrative Region has its own rehab plan, which is Ang target namin is May para may present and then by June, may pasok ito ng pag-usapan na on the national level para pag nag-budget hearing, supposed to be ngayong August yata yun eh. I think it's scheduled the budget hearing. So, para sana may pasok na ito. And pinipace namin ito and ina-advocate namin na sana lahat ng region sa Big Palos Good para isa lang tayo. Kasi ang nangyari po, sa experience natin sa OPPO, andyan na yung RRP pero hindi natin naitawid yung mga proyekto. And even until now, hindi pa po, ilan lang po yung mapupondohan because hindi na ipasok din sa multi-year program. So, based on that experience, ito po yung aming solusyon, no? To come up with an early recovery plan. Para po, and then, part of our strategy rin, siyempre, our own congressman, our representative from Benguet, the chair of the Appropriation Committee, so binigyan po namin siya ng copy nito para case na magkaroon ng budget hearing, meron tayong boses to represent the concerns of the Cordillera. Maraming po salamat at nakuha niyo po yung aming point.
Ano naman, napakano naman talaga po. Kaya nga sabi kanina, kahit nung portion ko po, talaga napaka-exemplary po at kami po in the national government sa central office ay talagang saludo po sa RDRRMC ng Cordillera. And we really hope that you can continue doing the great job of leading and setting good examples, good best practices. Just a last note, I would like to suggest to submit the copy of the yung recover as one nyo ng car to the task group on rehabilitation and recovery, as well as the STG on governance. I think yung task group, yung bagong task group on recovery, which is being led by NEDA, and I think ang focal dun is the Director Edilion. Well, I think medyo mas limited pa yung coverage yan. They're looking at recharge and not yet recovery. But STG governance is already looking at long-term recovery. At sana maisama ho natin to. No? At yung magandang sigurong linya na pwede ho natin gamitin, sana pare-pareho kasi yung sinasabi natin para mas lumakas yung ating boses, is that it is, as we recover, pursuant to the principles of building back better, it is necessary for us to strengthen our resilience from all kinds of disasters so as to protect our economic and social recovery from COVID-19 towards better and sinasabi nga nila, better and more resilient normal. Dapat hindi tayo bumalik sa dating normal. No? That's contrary to the principles of rehabilitation recovery. This is the new normal, which should not be permanent also. But we should go towards a better and more resilient normal, so that we can really achieve the purposes of the PDP, the Philippine Development Plan, as well as the National Security Strategy or Policy na ma-achieve talaga po natin. With that, thank you po. At again, congratulations to all of you and mabuhay po kayong lahat sa Cordillera.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Makaasa po kayo na tuloy-tuloy ito.
Okay, maraming salamat po, Direct Team, for sharing po. Before we proceed sa ating last presentation with DILG card, we inform our participants that our link for the evaluation form is now open. So you may now access our link for our online evaluation and attendance form. Again, as mentioned earlier, only those who will fill up this online evaluation form and attendance form will be given their certificates. So we will give your certificates to the email that you will be using in filling up this online evaluation form. So you may now access that link po. Again, before the ILG form, may we ask if there are more or other questions from our participants po, especially sa presentation po ng Meta Card. Okay, so hearing none, we proceed to our last presentation for this afternoon. We have our preparedness measures, preparedness activities for the typhoon season amidst the continuing challenge of COVID-19. Well, we have Sir Ralph Rex from DILG Cordillera as the Vice Chair for Disaster Preparedness. Sir Ralph, magandang hapon po.
Thank you, Ferdy. Pero hindi ako yung vice chair, ha? Chair ko lang. All right. Okay. Yeah, I was asked to present the preparedness activities for the preparedness thematic area. However, honestly, for all our preparedness activities supposedly were hampered due to the COVID-19. So what I'm going to present is actually some of the reminders and updates when it comes to preparedness. Anyways, by the way, I believe all the member agencies as well under the preparedness thematic area have done their own preparedness. Like the PIA, they've done their part on increasing the awareness of our LGUs and our community. Also, the other member agencies like OCD have done their part as well when it comes to preparedness po. So, moving on, we go with the description or the definition of disaster preparedness. From the NDRRM plan, the goal of disaster preparedness is to establish and strengthen capacities of communities to anticipate, cope, and recover from negative impacts of emergency occurrences and disasters po. Yun po yung pinaka-goal ni disaster preparedness according to the NDRRM plan. And that's actually correct because if we move on to the next slide, here is actually the outcomes that were mentioned in the NDRRM plan. That's under the disaster preparedness, we actually have, I think, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 5 outcome areas. And these are actually translated as well as the objectives of disaster preparedness. So if we look onto the outcome 7, increased level of awareness and enhanced capacity of the community to the threats and impacts of all hazards, risks, and vulnerabilities. Our lead agency po dyan is the PIA. So I'll just be going through this real quick because we'll try to maybe, because this is a general when it comes to the NDRRM plan kasi medyo very general siya. Malawak po yung scope niya. Okay, so moving on with the outcome 8, communities are equipped with the necessary skills and capability to cope with the impacts of disasters. Our lead agencies po dyan is DALG and po si what they call this OCD. However, sabi ko nga po, yung mga trainings natin hampered kasi our modules are not yet developed when it comes to online training, especially yung parang we were planning to conduct management of the dead and the missing persons for training for our LGUs as well as the I'm not sure, Sir Ferdy, if you have the modules na for the public service continuity plan para pwede na pa tayong mag-conduct nun. I think they mentioned that we really need that for the LGUs as well. Meron na ba tayo doon, Sir Ferds?
Sir, magandang hapon po. Sir, for the public service continuity planning, we actually have a scheduled national orientation on public service continuity planning via webinar on September 4 and September 5. I will be one of the resource persons for that activity po. Organized siya ng CDPS sa central office. We will be sending invitations to LGUs and our TRINS member agencies, hopefully within the week po.
Nice. Okay, thank you very much, Sir Ferds. That's a very good. That's a good news for all of us then, because I believe that's one of the plans that it's actually new to all of us. Because I think that was being used only by the business sector or the private sector before. But anyways, thank you very much, Sir Ferds, for the update on that. So the outcome 9, increase the DRRM capacity of local dream councils office at all levels. Lead agency po dyan si DILG, and I believe we don't have any problems when it comes to the strengthening of these local dream councils. Year in, year out, we've been doing that. And actually, we also have DRMIS as well, with the one of the projects of the Bureau of Local Governance Supervision, or actually developing a certain tool to actually measure the disaster preparedness and the resilience capacity of our LGUs. Sabi ko nga, we don't have much of the activities for preparedness right now. And one of the unfortunate things as well is we don't have the seal of good local governance for this year. I believe it works the same way with the Office of the Civil Defense when it comes to their Gawad Kalasag, na hindi tayo makaka-conduct nun. And that's actually too bad, because there's no way for us to really measure the preparedness and the capacity of our LGUs right now. For the DRMIS, or the risk management institutional strengthening, we are still piloting po dito sa mga some LGUs of Benguet, like Trinidad, Bayan, Tuba, Itogon, Bugyas, and the province of Benguet. And I think they're still starting with the piloting of the tool. So para pag okay na po yun, then we'll actually go fast on this, then will be applied to all our LGUs. And soon it might be possible that it will be part of the SGLG as well. Okay, so if we go to outcome 10, developed and implemented comprehensive national and local preparedness response policies and plans. Lead agencies po rin po natin dyan is si DILG and OCD. And of course, for the strengthened partnership and coordination among all key players and stakeholders, lead agency po is DILG, but still, yung sinasabi natin, whole of governance approach tayo dito. So we encourage everyone to actually be part of the our fight when it comes to hydrometeorological hazards, as well as the ongoing pandemic right now. Okay, so to sum it up, to come up with the disaster preparedness minimum standards, minimum lang po to. General din po to na sinabi ni Ndrm plan, we should come up with their structures. This refers to the overseeing implementation of and organization of DRM at the local level, as stipulated in RA 10121, like establishment of our dream councils, and of course our LDRRM offices as and structures as enunciated by the JMC 2014-01. It's a JMC under with the NDRRMC, DLG, DBM, and the Civil Service Commission. Okay, secondly, we have the systems and policies, but we should have the processes and procedures and guiding principles that need to be in place to ensure the effective implementation of dream activities at the LGUs. So, yun nga po, we have to come up with policies to actually work on our human resources, our operations center, how to go about our communication and our evacuation systems. We should have systems in place to work on this. But I believe, sabi ko nga, year in, year out, we're practicing this. I believe our LGUs have been maybe working 5 years or 10 years in the field already. They're very much aware on these systems and policies. Sabi ko nga, this is just a review for them and a reminder as well. Okay, sa plans naman tayo. So of course, we should have course of actions and propose strategies for local dream programs. As for the plans, did not report na, hindi ko na po kinuha yung mga natin, yung data namin dyan, kasi mangilan-ngilan lang po yung mga for updating na yung LDRRM plans nila, yung pumaso na po. Most of our LGUs have actually good plans already, except po sa LCCAP and yung sa CDPs natin, Comprehensive Development Plans, because right now, mangilan-gilan po yung risk-based yung mga comprehensive development plans. Most actually were based on observable conditions po yung mga plans nila. And hopefully, they will be updating their plans, especially our LDRRM plans, that would actually cater to our current problem, and it would actually curb the problems when it comes to emerging infectious diseases po. By the way, we'll be conducting some a training on the country comprehensive development plans to some of our LGUs. Ilan yun, Al? 18 LGUs in CAR. Hopefully, we'll be able to maybe train more, but as of now, 18 pa po. We're focusing on the ones that are actually updating and coming up with their Ndrm plans. Of course, we have to work on the data requirement as well, come up with facts, information, and figures to come up with an effective plan, like your hazard risk maps, access, you have access and utilization of forecast produced data. We should have those EWS, and of course, systems on proper evacuation and then policies during emergencies. And trainings. Of course, we have to capacitate nga po yung mga staff po ng offices natin so that they could actually perform their jobs properly and effectively. And of course, equipage. And of course, yun service delivery, yung stockpiling. We should come up with support the services as well to be effective when it comes to disaster response and recovery. And yun nga po, actually lahat mga binanggit ko is kinonvert po ni DALG through with the help of LGA as well through their operation list. And by the way, just an announcement, we had a meeting a while ago with the interagency task groups from the national. DALG came up with the operation list of protocols on emerging infectious diseases. I'm not sure about the timeline as well. They're finalizing the protocol or the manual on that to help our LGUs when it comes to their fight or their preparations and response to COVID-19 or to emerging infectious diseases po. Since we've been using Operation Listo Manual as one of our manuals or guide in curbing and preparing or responding in hydrometeorological hazards, we actually they came up also with this one. Hopefully, this would be a more simplified version because it would also contain some of the guidelines when it comes to the zoning containment strategy po. So hopefully they'll be able to download that earlier so that we could already disseminate it to our LGUs. Yun nga yung sinasabi ko po, yung lahat ng nabanggit ko in the earlier part, nandito po na po. It was simplified already by the Operation Listo Manual. You've got your own checklist already there. All you got to do is to check kung ano pa meron dyan at hindi nyo pa nagawa. Then, you could actually do it but just by referring with the Listo manuals. So, by the way, the Listo manual would contain just the minimum preparedness standards. So you could also come up if you're using another checklist that's more comprehensive than the Listo manual. That's fine. If you prefer go back rather than the IBALDI, that's fine. As long as we come up with something to make us prepared, and we have something, we have systems in place to actually respond and work on during emergencies or disaster occurrences. So actually, when sa umpisa po ng manual natin is we have the early preparedness actions, which is supposed to be done during peacetime or wala pong mga bagyo. Andyan po dapat yung mga gagawin nila, like creating their systems and the policies and the plans. Nandyan po. And of course, the red one, na color code po siya, is yung mga competency, yung mga conduct of trainings, yung mga, nandyan po yung mga government agencies and partner organizations that could assist in the conduct of the training or could provide the training. And for the green one, ito po yung mga resources na dapat immobilize natin when ano tawag doon, when during peacetime. So you should come up with your supplies, stockpiling, and the equipments so that you would be always ready when there's a call for response. So ito po. So sources of funding. Dami pong nabanggit. We have the Ndrm Fund. Nabanggit po yan ng we have the status a while ago from the BLGF. We also have the POC funds that could be actually accessed right now during the a state of calamity. We have the Bayanihan Grant to cities and municipalities by the according it was the guidelines enunciated under Local Budget Circular 125 dated April 7, 2020. We have the Bayanihan Grant to provinces with the guidelines under LBC 126 dated April 13. Magkasunod lang po sila. And also we have the DLG DBM-JMC number 1 dated March 27 on the use of the annual ERA revenue allotment for development projects, which is the 20% development fund po ng mga LGUs. So those are actually some of the fund source that the LGUs could access during this particular state of calamity po. Okay, so sa Ndrm Fund, ito po yung mga pwedeng pagkagamitan: conduct of trainings, simulation exercises, IEC development, development of standard operations manual, development and implementation of standard operating procedures, and some of the projects and activities, development and institutionalization of early warning systems, conduct of disaster risk reduction management researches, conduct of dialogues with the stakeholders, conduct of regular review of contingency plans, development of information and database generation, stockpiling of emergency supplies, other programs or projects similar to in nature and considered necessary po. So yan po yung pwedeng pagkagamitan po ng ating Ndrm Fund. And you look at it, I think a lot of us have, a lot of the LGUs have not yet utilized their or have not depleted their Ndrm Fund. So I think medyo nakatulong talaga yung Bayanihan Grant natin because looking at it, if they weren't able to, maybe most of our LGUs have utilized first the Bayanihan grants that were provided to them, which is actually good because that's only once the state of calamity is lifted, babalik na po nila yung grant na yon. So it's actually good if they were able to utilize that. The sooner, the better po. And also make use of the Ndrm Fund, and prior to using like other funds like the POC fund or the 20% development fund, so that yung pagkakagamitan sana ng 20% development fund is hindi na po madidistorbo. It will go to the original purpose of that 20% development fund po. Okay, so just a reminder, these are the allowable expenses. Procurement of personal protective equipment, procurement of equipment, reagents and kits for COVID-19 testing, procurement of medicines and vitamins, hospital equipment, supplies, disinfectants. It could also be used for food, transportation, and accommodation expenses, food assistance, and other relief goods. Pag titignan nyo po yan, we have the table, tinignan ko, halos parehas po yung allowable expenses grant to cities and municipalities and grant to provinces. For the 20% and development fund and the grant to cities and municipalities, parehas po lahat yan. Except for the province na wala po yung sa food assistance and relief goods, and saka yung expenses for the operation of stand-alone or mobile testing laboratory, expenses of the purchase or rental of temporary shelters. However, may nagkaiba naman po sa huli na yung pagkakagamitan pa ng grant for the provinces would go to the training of medical health personnel for their district and other local hospitals po. Okay, and also other necessary COVID-19 related PPAs for the provincial district and others. So these were actually lifted from the issuances by DBM and also DALG po on the allowable expenses. And just to look at the on the expenses that are not allowed, sabi po dito, financial or cash assistance, bawal po yun. Personal services, such as salaries, administrative expenses, traveling expenses, whether domestic or foreign, registration or participation fees in training, seminars, and conferences. I think medyo madalang na rin naman tayo mag-participate face-to-face. Wala masyado siguro training fees na magkakailanganin natin dito. And it's not yet really allowed because we're actually using a different platform right now, which is the video teleconferencing. Okay, purchase of administrative furnitures, fixtures, purchase or maintenance or repair of motor vehicles. Ingat-ingat po tayo dyan, yung pagbili po ng sasakyan. And of course, other PPAs and expenses not related po to COVID-19. Okay, so there's some of the reminders for our preparedness and actually for our LGUs when they go on with their activities when it comes to preparedness and response. Now, let me just give you a few updates as well on the activities in response against COVID-19 that were pursued by partner agencies, member agencies, and the DLG. First, we go with the isolation facilities. This is actually lifted from DOH. They are the ones who are maintaining this. So right now, we have 28 identified temporary treatment and monitoring facilities. These are only used for confirmed mild cases po. Confirmed mild cases because different po yung isolation and quarantine. So sa quarantine po is yun po yung mga no symptoms po mga yon. But of course, they are considered close contacts. That's why you have to quarantine them. However, sa isolation po, they're may kwan na po sila, confirmed na po, confirmed mild cases po, like suspect, probable, and step-down cases po. So those are data. Right now, we are looking at the good data on the number of community quarantine facilities. We have 1,006 community quarantine facilities. However, I would like to remind our LGUs, because I believe most of these community quarantine facilities might be their evacuation centers or evacuation facilities. To ensure that the infection wouldn't spread, they should come up with maybe a quarantine facility or an isolation facility that would be distinct from their evacuation facility. And yun nga po, sana malayo rin. I think these are some of the challenges right now that our LGUs are facing, because a lot of the LGUs did not come up with this particular kind of facilities. And right now, especially with the some of facilities identified are also schools. So I think right now we need the DepEd had are coming up. Not allowing the schools because to prepare for the coming entry of students. I'm not sure kung approved na po yung October 5 talaga na yun, if that's correct. Pero I think they have to do it. They have to give up pa rin yung paggamit ng schools para at least ma-disinfect as early as soon as possible po. Okay, and when it comes to contact tracing, thank you very much, Sir Frankie, for giving me background on the on contact tracing, and especially the best practice of Baguio City as well. We've been actually sharing that as well with our conduct of contact tracing to LGUs. Right now, we've conducted contact tracing orientations or trainings for 3 batches already. We've conducted sometime in July 21, August 5, and August 14. So the data shows for the numbers trained right now is 3,541 out of the 3,674 members. And just a heads up, we had a meeting as well yesterday that I think National will be hiring contact tracers. But it's too early actually to maybe give this right now to some of sa baba po, kasi they're still coming up with the guidelines. And I think yung guidelines po nito is based on it could be based on yung mga kulang 1:800, because 1 contact tracer is to 800 population sana. But I think kung saan talaga kinakailangan. kinakailangan po yung mga contact tracers. Baka doon po yung allocation po nila sa mga na-hire na contact tracers. And also, I think they will be coming up with the coordinated operations to defeat epidemics na parang strike force din nata to na to help LGUs kung may malaki talaga yung cases and they have problems with yun nga contact tracing as well. But I think the details will be soon be downloaded by I'm not sure if it would be the regional task force when it regarding this. So I'll just be giving you the data on the trained contact tracing members dito po sa Apayao, because they're the ones who are actually present right now. Benguet, Kalinga, Ifugao, and Apayao. So kudos to Apayao to have all of their contact tracers trained. And here's for Benguet. And ito po yung kay Ifugao. And kay Kalinga. So basically, konti na lang po yung mga hindi pa po trained na members ng contact tracing teams natin. Hopefully, for the rest, maybe our MHOs who are already trained could assist when it comes to the training of this yung mga natitira po nating members na hindi pa po trained. Okay. So, let me see. All right, so just an announcement as well with the zoning containment strategy, just a description, definition on this. The zoning containment strategy aims to contain and prevent the spread of COVID-19, protect the Filipino people, and mitigate the social, economic, and security impacts. Lalo dito sa economic natin, that's why they came up with the zoning containment strategy to come up with a granular or granulated lockdown po, so that just instead of locking down the whole municipality, kung kaya naman na house lang or barangay lang, is yung barangay lang ang ila-lockdown natin or yung house lang or yung building yan, so that yung economic and economic situation or economic and financial situation ng particular LGU na yun ay hindi naman mag-suffer, especially po yung mga sa booming na mga areas like sa mga cities. Very important po ito zoning containment strategy because andito mo lahat yung mga parang center of we consider it the central business district. So basically, one of the important reasons why we do contact tracing is to come up with the right data when it comes to the suspect, probable, and confirmed cases, so that we'll come up with the correct parameters that would suit the proper zoning strategy, which ones would be considered critical zones, containment zones, buffer zones, and outside buffer zones po. And by the way, we'll be having an orientation regarding this 2 to 5 p.m. tomorrow on zoning containment strategy. We've already sent the advisory to our field offices. Hopefully, the LGUs present right now were able to receive the advisory so that you could join us tomorrow. This is 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. We've actually invited the speaker from Manila to do the discussion on zoning containment strategy. And for the other agencies as well, national government agencies, you're also welcome to join po. And of course, I think this is the last one of our slides, the monitoring of ordinances. As of now, yung mga with existing ordinance penalizing non-wearing of face masks for the whole region of CAR, we have 37, but that doesn't mean that we're lacking. Kasi all of the provinces naman have the provincial ordinance na, kaya it would apply to the municipalities as well. If you look at the data on Mountain Province, kaya po naka 111 yan, kasi yung nag-apply na po sa kanila is yung ordinance po ni province. Although yung iba, kinoconsider ko pa rin yung numbers pa rin, minonitor namin yung numbers to reflect pa rin na yung may mga LGUs pa rin, the municipalities and the cities who have actually came up with their own ordinance. Okay, so yun po yung data natin for the ordinances and for not wearing a face mask, violators of social distancing, and of course, yun nga po rin na may mga if these ordinances are actually in accordance to the penalties under the memorandum of the secretary po. So that's our data po. Okay, so let me end my presentation that according to Howard Huff, it wasn't raining when Noah built the ark, and I believe that's very much very true. So right now, as early as right now, we come up with the preparedness measures, even though these are trying times. I think it's an opportunity for us to be more innovative when it comes to capacitating our LGUs and our people in the ground. So again, kudos to the LGUs right now, especially Benguet, Kalinga, Ifugao, and Apayao, who are actually doing their part when it comes to curbing the risks when it comes to hydrometeorological hazards, as well as the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, so there you go. Thank you very much po. Thank you very much OCD for having me during this Resilience Caravan.
Thank you very much. There goes our DJ from DJ Rock. Thank you very much. Ferdy, take it away.
Thank you very much po, sir. Ay parang DJ daw si Sir Ralph sa kanyang get up for our session this afternoon. So, Sir Ralph, we have two questions from Director Lim of PTTS Central Office ng OCD. First question is, how is the LISTO connected to the disaster preparedness criteria of the SGLG? And second is, as the LISTO includes the registration of disaster volunteers, given that the NDRRMC has not issued any guidelines regarding the same, what guidelines are the eligible?
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. How is the list for the first question? How is it connected to the disaster preparedness criteria of the SGLG? If we look at, I don't have the exact criteria as well right now on my screen right now. I think it's ayaw nila kasing pakita yung ayaw nilang i-share pala yung yung Excel file. However, like some of the indicators there is yung training on ICS. So if you look at the listo, andun po yung pinagkuhanan po na indicators sa SGLG na lift po sa operation listo. So hindi po siya magbibigay si SGLG ng indicator na hindi rin wala siyang pagkukuhanan po ng ano tawag doon, walang part or walang probability na magawa ni LGU. So basically, pinattern ni SGLG yung indicators niya sa mga preparedness checklist ni operation list po. And for the second question, LISTO includes the registration of disaster volunteers, given that the NDRRMC has not issued any guidelines regarding saying what guidelines are they used to use. I think for the SGLG kasi yung when it comes to DC parang mga volunteers, plus points na po siya. Magiging plus points na. However, for the guidelines that will be used, disaster volunteers, I think if this disaster volunteers could maybe come up with a kasi may nag-accredit naman ng nag-accredit naman ng LGU ng CSO, is maybe if they could come up with a civil society organization that would be composed of volunteers, then they could have the LGU accredit them. because we have guidelines on the accreditation of CSOs po.
May I rejoin there lang? Mamaya natin tanong yung pangatlong tanong, ano? Balik lang muna tayo dun sa pangalawa po. I would say, number one muna yun. So number one, kasi po, I'm asking this question in the context that I think both our regional offices, all of our regional offices here, whether from the DILG and OCD knows that we're moving towards Gawad Kalasag seal next year. With since the OCD naman po ang chair ng TWG for disaster preparedness of the SGLG as provided for by the law institutionalizing the SGLG. We're working with the DILG Bureau of Local Government Supervision under Director the bright and beautiful Director Pasaraba. We're working with them towards turning the GK, the Gawad Kalasag Award for Local Government, into a Gawad Kalasag seal in itself, no? Para at least na alam naman natin na marami na So, tinatanong ko lang, yung sa listo mo, kasi nakita ko yung listahan, yung mga checklist, marami doon. At tinatanong ko lang kung ito po ay pareho dun sa mga requirements ngayon dun sa disaster preparedness or kung meron tayong connection. Kasi baka it's two separate, no? As I understand, the listo is supposed to be disaster preparedness lang talaga. It's actually preparedness for response, di ba? Yeah. Hindi siya pa yung preparedness as a whole na minsan kasi in the concept of disaster preparedness, pwede mo siyang pag-usapan as a disaster resiliency na nga incompletely, in totality.
Correct.
Diba? Kasi dalawa ang concept ng disaster preparedness. May isang malawakan, tapos may isang preparedness for response. And I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, but the listo is preparedness for response. No? Please.
In some way, Director Texon, that's actually correct because part of the operation listo, we have some part there that says the critical preparedness actions. However, we apply that during kung nandyan na si typhoon. There's a particular kung kunwari, typhoon is there, you have preparedness actions within 24 hours prior to landfall. So we have also preparedness actions during, before, during, and after. So you're right about that. Na it's actually preparedness for response in a manner na ganon. And for yung sa SGLG nga po, every year nag-iiba sila ng indicators. So if you're saying that you're coming up to marry yung sa Gawad Kalasag and the indicators of the SGLG, malamang mangyayari po yan. Kasi to ensure na hindi naglalaban yung dalawang agencies when it comes to that. Baka magulo yung mga LGUs.
Oo, convergence na sana. Tapos dun po sa number 2, ano lang po, I think your first slide on the listo, dun lang ako nagtaka. Kasi totoo naman na umaamin po kami na may pagkukulang rin siguro kami na hindi pa namin ilalabas yung guidelines, no, or napupush, no? Tatapos yung pinaka-guidelines, no, as well as the software. If you can go back to your slide number 1, I was just wondering, kasi it can be used as a basis also for in the finalization of the Hdb Guidelines. I think your slide number 1 or the first page of your listo shows that there was a issuance of order relative to the registration of volunteers. So nagtataka lang po kung baka meron kayong sample nung or template.
For the
go back to your slide number 1, or I think I say
structures. Saglit.
Sorry, Direk, ang hilig ko magtanong. At least talaga nagpa-participate ako dito sa Caravan.
Which one, Director?
If I may share na lang my screen.
Sige, sir.
If I may share na lang my screen. Ako pinicturean ko rin kasi. Yan. Ito po, yung Community Disaster Volunteers, yung Issue Standard Guidelines on the Accreditation of Volunteers. This is not yung accredited disaster volunteers, no?
I believe it's different, sir. Most probably kasi it's yeah. Kasi iba yan siguro sa ano tawag din ni Ndrm plan. Most probably it's on more on CSOs moving sa CSO side yan. Kasi kung wala pa yung guidelines ni NDRRMC dyan, I think the only way for them to come up with the accreditation of these volunteers is parang to maging CSO sila. Because we have a process or a guideline on accreditation of CSOs.
Sige po, maraming salamat. Thank you so much. And yun, number 3, ang galing mo naman, para ka radio announcer, ano? Napaka-swabe ng boses mo. Sige po, maraming salamat po. Maraming salamat.
So, magandang hapon po ulit sa atin lahat. Thank you very much, Director Lim and Sir Nal, for the clarifications po. And by the way po, if we have our participants here from the Trinidad yet, Sir Yosh and Sir because I think you can share about how do you accredit your volunteers in the absence of the ACDVs from the NDRRMC. May we call our participants from the Trinidad Yosh and Sir Yhong. Go ahead. Go ahead po, sir. Thank you very much, Sir Yo. Ayan po. So again, may mga other questions po ba tayo before we conclude our session for this afternoon? Okay, so before we conclude our session this afternoon, again po, we request everyone to please fill up our online evaluation form. So far, we now have 45 responses sa ating online evaluation form. And we hope na dumami pa po yung mag-fill up sa ating evaluation form po. We are expecting around more than 70 or 70 to 100 participants. And 50 ang naka-join na date sa atin, but we understand na sa isang account, I think more than 3 ang nag-attend na person because you are in your respective offices. So thank you very much for joining us. So just some reminders before we finally end our session. Of course, number 1, pag-fill up rin evaluation form. We will close the link 30 minutes after the session. This is to ensure na hindi po kumalat yung link sa mga hindi nag-attend ng session po natin ngayon. At mabigyan lang ng certificates yung nag-attend talaga ng session natin. Likewise, we remind our local DRRM councils and offices for the submission of your local DRRM plans for review. And as mentioned earlier, we will have a public service continuity planning webinar on September 4 to 5, 2020. This is in partnership with our central office and the NDRRMC. We will be sending you the link soon. And of course, please be reminded that our Cordillera RTF coordination meeting is moved to August 27th, that's Thursday, at 9 o'clock p.m. Okay, so those are just some reminders. And to close our session for this afternoon, we have a message from the provincial governor of the province of Kalinga and the chairperson of Kalinga Provincial DRRM Council, Honorable Governor Ferdinand D.
A blessed day to each and everyone. Before anything else, I would like to thank the Office of Civil Defense under the leadership of RD Commodore Albert Mogul and all the speakers of today's activities for the sharing of invaluable information, reports, expertise, and knowledge for the participants of the Cordillera Resilience Caravan 2020 and to all the people of Cordillera as well. It is of paramount consideration that rehabilitation and recovery plan for the whole region be deliberated and understood for more effective management of resources, manpower, and efforts for better results. The exchange of ideas, analysis, as well as answers to queries have provided us clearer vantage points in understanding our situation and options for our preparedness. Indeed, to ensure the maximum level of preparedness for any hazards that may affect the region, a comprehensive look at the main facets of disasters and calamities in every province of the region has to be taken into account. While some contexts may vary, harmonization of core approaches and strategies is required for a collective endeavor. With this, we can avoid, if not lessen, spatial inequalities of preparedness among provinces or municipalities. Kalinga Province is grateful for this Cordillera Resilience Caravan. Rest assured that the local chief executives and local disaster risk reduction management officers and members, together with the workforce of the Kalinga Provincial Government, shall do their part in the rehabilitation and recovery of the Cordillera as we embrace the new and better normal. Matago, Takolasan.
There you go. So maraming salamat po muli sa ating mga resource persons who joined us in our first session of the Cordillera Virtual Resilience Caravan. So again, thank you very much, Director Quezon John S. Lee, for actively participating, sir, sa ating activity. Likewise to our members of the Cordillera Regional Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, especially those who served also as our resource persons from BLGF, from the BILG, from NEDA, and of course from OCD. And of course, to our participants from the provinces of Apayao, Benguet, Kalinga, and Ifugao. Maraming salamat. And we will be having our second session on September 1, the same time on Wednesday, but we will be having, for our participants, we will be joining participants from Mountain Province, from the city of Baguio, and from the province of Abra naman, yung ating second session. So again, thank you very much. Mabuhay po tayong lahat. And please don't forget to fill up our online evaluation.
Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat.
Congratulations sa NDRRMC car, particularly to OCD. Congratulations. Good job, good job. Kahit yung taga-opsen ng DILG car, paturo naman. Sige po, maraming salamat.
Pwede bang sample ulit?
Natapos.
Graduate ka na, Seth.
Thank you po sa inyong lahat. Buhay ang Cordillera.
And we thank our participants. So again, thank you very much, RD Ralph Pablo, DNRR. We also have Sir Alberto Matis, of Public Works and Highways. Maraming salamat, sir, for joining us. People Forces North Luzon. And we also have from the Police Regional Office of Cordillera. Department of Tourism, Ma'am Sylvia, maraming salamat po. Department of Education and all DRRM school coordinators who were with us all throughout our session. Department of Social Welfare and Development, Department of Science and Technology, and local DRRM.
May seminar na bigat na NCIP.
Awan, 27.
Taging mati pagbagana niya di isang batay jay.
We also have our partners from the NCIP, National Commission on Indigenous Peoples.
Thank you po, NCIP, for your participation.
Department of Health, of course, Department of Social Welfare and Development, Department of Education, yes. And then of course, yung ating mga provincial DRRM offices and their municipal DRRM offices na kasama po natin. Again, thank you very much.
Advance Merry Christmas.
So this is Christmas po.